what song I was disappointed wasn't in Everybody Wants Some?
What's Everybody Wants Some?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's even punctuated the same way.
Yeah.
It's got the 2 exclamation points. I looked it up earlier today just to make sure I wasn't crazy. I'm like, this is a song, right? And like, yeah, it's a Van Halen song.
Yep.
So, I'm not crazy.
No, you're not. I actually thought, like, going into the movie, I thought that's what was going to kick it off, but
I thought that's what either was going to kick it off or be like the end credits song.
yeah, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the two.
It's like during Civil War at the end, I expected them to be like, we don't need your Civil War, from like Guns N' Roses. You know? That would have been very appropriate for that type of movie, right?
Yeah. Love, take me down to the streets.
Yeah. Remember, kid, there's heroes and there's legends. Heroes get remembered, but legends never die. Follow the Neon Crew podcast, kid, and you'll never go wrong.
Nice.
That is the Sultan of SWAT.
Yeah.
The Colossus of Crash.
Clout.
What's
Colossus of Clout? The Colossus of Clout?
What's the Crash one? It's the King of Crash.
The King of Crash.
The Sultan of SWAT, the King of Crash, the Colossus of Clout, the Great Bambino.
Yeah. The Great Bambi? That wimpy deer?
Oh, yeah, no, I know that's not who you were talking about.
Lying his ass off.
Yeah, I relate so hard to Smalls in pretty much any scene of that movie.
I was trying to ask Preston who he kind of gravitated towards, and he's like, he was Benny. He goes, the kid that hits it far.
The coolest kid in the fucking movie.
Yeah, he's like the one that, well, he likes that Benny destroyed the baseball. Like, I think that's like his favorite scene.
Commonality between these two movies, at least one of them. Baseball's getting destroyed.
Well, yeah, one of them's a more impressive feat. Well,
they're
actually,
both
I
pretty
don't know.
fucking impressive, dude. I don't know.
I guess if you take the age of Benny,
which one is more impressive? Benny blasting the ball the way he did to where it looks like an apple core, or was it Mac from everybody? Mac hitting the baseballs with an axe and splitting it in two. I would almost kind of vote for that one just because he did it twice.
Yeah. Today's going to be the greatest day of my life. You know, that is until tomorrow.
What a great fucking line.
Dude. Movie's rife with them.
Very emblematic of the movie itself.
Oh, God, yeah. I can't wait to talk about both these films.
Yeah. So welcome, everybody, to the Neon Crew podcast. My name is Kyle.
I'm Mac.
And we really don't have too strict of a structure with this episode. We're talking about two baseball-centric classics, I would say. One for sure a classic, the other well on its way to being a classic.
Teetering.
Give it like 10 more years, probably 10 or 15 more years, and yeah, people will look back on it fondly. When Glen Powell is like the superstar Mount Rushmore actor that he's on trajectory to become, we'll look back on this as like, oh, humble beginnings.
It'll be like Tom Cruise in The Outsiders.
That's funny that you mentioned that because we were talking about that the other day with my parents.
Oh,
Megan
really?
and I went over for dinner, and we were like, yeah, the Outsiders was like a big start for a lot of those stars that ended up being like big blockbuster guys.
Yeah.
Like you got Matt Dillon, you got Tom Cruise, Rob Lowe,
Swayze,
Patrick Swayze.
Yeah,
like
Ralph Macchio.
All those dudes, yeah. We'll have to maybe talk about The Outsiders one day. My parents as a guest?
Oh!
Question mark. I don't know if they would have the patience to be on a podcast episode.
No, it's a lot of sitting down and discussing.
It's a lot of sitting down and talking.
True.
And my dad could probably easily do that. I don't know. My mom might get tired out of it after a bit.
A little ADHD going on or something.
I don't know. Maybe. It would explain where I got it from probably. Undiagnosed. I will throw that out there. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like we could talk about either movie first and it would go well.
All right, let's do Everybody Wants Some.
I had a feeling you were going to pick that one first.
I wanted to do it last, but then you said either or, and I was like, you know what? Let's just, because I gotta hear it from you on what you were thinking with it.
So how about you introduce this one?
Yep.
And I get the Sandlot.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, yeah, this is the one. Well, I guess I recommended both, but this is kind of the one that I wanted to, because we were going off the Glen Powell, which my brother gave me a whole bunch of shit on the Twisters thing.
Oh, really?
He's out in left field. He's going to listen to it, and then in 2 weeks I'll get a text about saying that he listened to it. He's like, you couldn't be further from expectations of what you should be at. I could probably read off the text that we had going back and forth.
I would love that, honestly. We could have like a little segment of you reading your text exchange with Sam.
Oh, we'll do it at the end of this thing for people that want to hop in.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So back to the movie at hand. Everybody Wants Some. 2016, directed by Richard Linklater, written by Richard Linklater. I think this was supposed to I don't know if this was a one-off or if someone was trying to tie this into like Boyhood and like Midnight Before Sunset or whatever.
So I've been seeing
a
lot of people saying that this is a spiritual successor to Dazed and Confused.
Yeah.
And Linklater himself said that this is sort of a follow-up to Boyhood in a way.
Yeah.
Or like the end of Boyhood, like I won't spoil it, but like it can kind of easily progress from one to the other.
Yeah, so I think there's some theories out there. I don't know. I mean, even in spirit, who's to say you probably could connect it. Anyways, this is it's a setting in 1980s Texas with starting off with Jake. He's gonna be a freshman at this college, like Southwest Amarillo College or something like that. It's supposed to be a fictional D1 school. Shows up to the baseball house because that's where he was given the address to go to move in. And hey, the whole gang's here. We're going to get you in. And it's going to kind of be, I don't know, it's like a little bit of a transition from, high school into college and kind of like what essentially that life looks like just over a matter of a couple days. So it's the weekend before college kicks off and we get to see Jake interacting with his newfound friends, learning about where he fits in, like in the societal hierarchical status or the alpha status with the baseball team, and goofs and shenanigans ensue.
I mean, yeah, I don't think a better way to describe a movie like this, right?
Very interesting, right?
I it's funny because, and I guess I'll just cap this discussion off. While I was watching this, I'm trying to remember the point in the runtime when I said to Megan, because we watched it together.
Yeah.
When I looked over at her and I told her I can see why Mac loves this movie.
Oh, dude, you think I love it, Sam? So this came out in 2016, kind of like under the radar. Not a lot of, I don't know what production house got a hold of this thing. Like if it was just like Linklaters or maybe not necessarily a big one.
Annapurna Pictures and Detour Film Production.
Yeah, so you can see that the marketing behind it's probably going to be a little laxed on it. It came out in, I want to say, spring.
Detour Film Production is Richard Linklater's production company.
I'm starting to find out, too, because we were talking about Will Ferrell today and Night at the Roxbury for some reason, that a lot of like successful directors and actors have a production house under their name somewhere.
Yeah, Wes Anderson has Indian Paintbrush. Brad Pitt has Plan B.
Oh, really? That's Pitt's?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. If you watch an Andrew Dominic movie, you'll see that like a lot of the recent ones are Plan B.
Yeah, I've seen. That's why I've noticed Plan B before. Like that one's popping out in my head. I was like, oh. So I'm Linklater. Probably, he threw some money into this. Marketing was a little low. I didn't really know about it, and I'm not like a huge Linklater.
I've been pronouncing it Linklater
guy.
Because that's how I've always heard it, but who knows how accurate I am.
Richard L.
Richie.
Yeah, so Sam's one that was like, dude, you got to see this film. And he's going to go see it for a second or third time. And like, we're watching it, and it was, 2016. So I was coaching at Ferris and kind of like sparking some of those memories. And Sam had just gotten done with college. So I mean, like, this is like, at Ferris, there was a football house, where they used to have all these parties and guys, you go hang out. And if you were going to go out, because like the bar was like right down the road, kind of like, the freaking, there's 3 bars in the Guaranteed Wholesome, the Fox,
yeah, it's like Spring Catcher, some like shit.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of the club.
Anyways, so that was like what
There's like the disco club, the cowboy club, and then the like scene club where like it's got like the punk music and shit.
Yeah. And so like so anyways, long story short, it sparked a whole bunch of memories. I never, like at Grand Valley, never got too tied into the football team.
Yeah, me neither.
But Sam, right? Sam is like one of the leaders. So I mean, we saw this, and like we're, all the archetypes are there with guys that all the meatheads that you see. The guy, the philosophical one, the guy that can rationalize, the smooth talker, the alpha, and so it was a really fun film being able to relate heavily. But then a lot of the discussions and what they talk about too, it's pretty interesting to me at least. And they do it. I mean, it's very quick paced, but it flows so well with how they're jumping from scene to scene and masking their identity, just trying to fit in essentially. So
yeah, this is a very lived-in movie. Like I said before, the reason why I told Megan, I said I can see why Mac likes this movie because it's just dudes hanging out.
Yeah,
he loves this movie probably the same reason he likes Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And obviously those are two very different movies, but like still the same sort of vibe of like you're just kind of with these guys.
Yeah.
And there's really not a central plot or narrative or like a goal that the movie has. It's just kind of showing you these dudes over the period of one weekend when they have an absolute near unlimited amount of freedom that they can just bestow upon themselves. And yeah, it goes exactly how you kind of would expect it to. They like to get girls, they like to get drunk, they like to go to the club and hang out. They like to just lounge around in their house and like play stupid ass games with each other.
Yeah.
And like, they're mostly just kind of chill. Some of them have like, there's some like egos here and there. You get your Jay Niles, you get your Max when he loses at ping pong, not our co-host Mac, but there's a character named Mac, which I feel like is maybe part of the reason why you also like this movie.
No, I actually forgot his name was Mac until I rewatched it.
Yeah,
I can always see his face, and one of my favorite lines in the whole movie is, today's the greatest day of my life.
Until tomorrow.
Until tomorrow, that is.
Glenn McReynolds is the character's name, played by Tyler Hoechlin,
who was actually a baseball player. I'm fairly certain he made it to single A, double A.
Maybe. I've not seen anything. Oh, wait. Nope. Hoechlin began playing baseball at the age of 7 and continued through high school. Okay. He earned a baseball scholarship to Arizona State University. He played infield. Yeah, it looks like he at least went to the college level, so...
Yeah, and that's maybe where it stopped at.
Probably helped him get the part, I would imagine.
Well, way back in the day, researching that, I remember seeing, like, because I was like, there's no fucking way this dude could hit. I wonder how they did the whole axe thing. And I could be mistaken, but I think they actually did it. Like, that was like a live take. That wasn't any, to say if the guy threw it at him, who knows? He could have just thrown a bait. But either way, to freaking swing an axe and cut a ball.
It looks cool as hell.
Yeah.
Especially the way, because like, do they do it in slow mo or does it just like go?
It slows. He throws it and then it kind of slows down to see the thing just slice it right in half.
Yeah,
filmed
very seamlessly. Yeah, no, I mean, I guess I'll just say baseline. This movie's very enjoyable.
Yes.
I had a good time with this film. Like I said before, not a whole lot of like narrative focus. The biggest appeal to me is the fact that, and this is kind of like my big takeaway from this movie, is that Jake is, he's a good character, I would say. Mm-hmm. He's a good sort of surrogate to kind of follow around through the film. That being said, I kind of like how he's just a little bit bland and kind of...
Baseline even keeled.
Basic dude. Basic, like, freshman white guy, kind of chill, sort of laid back, but likes to be competitive. And it lets the other side characters sort of shine a little bit more because you have that juxtaposition of like, oh, this guy's reacting to these dudes, kind of going along with it, but also at the same time, like, we're getting a really good look at these characters by comparison.
Yeah.
Because, you got your ones who are, a little bit more chill, like Wyatt Russell. Shout out to him.
Willoughby,
who has a interesting arc in this film, I will say. You've got your Glen Powell, who is playing Walt Finnegan.
Yep.
You've got, we already mentioned him, Tyler Hoechlin as Glenn McReynolds. Who was Plummer? Temple Baker as Tyrone Plummer, who... I was always interested in him when he was on screen, just because he brought an energy, or I should say lack thereof energy, to whenever he was on screen. Very aloof.
Totally not.
It almost seemed like he was more stoned than Wyatt Russell at points.
Yeah.
But I think that's just kind of his character, is that he's just dull.
At Ferris, there's a couple guys that were like that. It's like amazing, like when you see some meatheads or guys on the screen and you're like, man, how did this guy act like that, you know? And then, yeah, I mean, I knew a couple guys that were of the same approach, you know, totally. Like, it seemed like slow in the head, you know?
Yeah.
But they were always game to do whatever, you know, and they were very, they weren't going to back down, you know?
Yeah.
In which case, they almost come out like, he kind of comes off as sheepish, right? Mm-hmm. And then he gets brazen all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And you're like, where did this come from?
Right. Where have you been storing this energy?
Yeah.
Is it in your massive head? Because that dude had a big head in this movie. Let me tell you.
They all looked like the parts that they were playing too, because he looks like a catcher. I mean, I know if you know, you probably a little bit about baseball, right?
I mean, I played a little bit back in the day, and by that I mean in kindergarten and first grade.
Yeah.
And second grade, I think maybe, but that's about as far as it went. But yeah, I could see it.
Yeah.
He's kind of built like a tortoise.
Oh, dude, like stump.
Yeah. He's kind of built like the trunk of a tree.
When they're sitting in the room and they're like smoking weed, he's like, you know, like what cracks me up was Willoughby.
When he's sitting there shirtless, I'm just looking at like, how does his body work?
Yeah.
What's the inner machinations of this dude's organs?
I loved it when they're up there. Willoughby does this whole thing with Pink Floyd. Right.
Yeah.
And it's like totally, and I don't like, it was funny because actually watching this time, I was like, I wonder if this is how Gideon sees music or hears music, you know? And it's like a very like stone thought that he has, but then he leads right into, we were an early man. We were able to communicate telepathically. It's just like totally like.
Yeah. It goes about like the expected route of how you would think a stoner in a movie would talk, which, you know, is interesting.
A little bit. I mean, yeah, I think there was like both sides of the coin because like everyone, when they smoke, it's you could get any sort of conversation going on. It's just craziness.
Yeah. I like how this movie, the sort of like more over the top, brazen, like nearly cartoonish elements of it are still sort of portrayed in the lens of realism, in that you've got Jay Niles, who is just like the most ridiculous character out of all of them.
Yes.
And even when he's being his ridiculous sort of like over the top self, the characters are interacting in a way that's justified. They don't feel like they're in just a straight comedy movie like something like Accepted or like whatever, Step Brothers or whatever. Like they feel really lived in, and they're able to react to this character in a way where they're like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? Does nobody else acknowledge that this guy's a little wacko?
Little zany,
little insane.
Yeah.
But I like that, and I appreciate it. Even when you have a character that's that over the top, these characters are able to like react in a way that feels genuine, and that's a big part of this movie.
And so I think Linklater, I don't know if he played baseball or went to. The school was somehow based off like his college experience.
So yeah, I did a little bit of reading in that. This was based on kind of his experience when he went to. I'm trying to look for the name of the school. Sam Houston State University.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So I looked over a little bit of this before you came over, and yeah, it's based on like his experience. He had the actors come and live with him when they were rehearsing, so that they could have that lived-in feeling whenever they started filming. Which I'm always a fan of when directors do that, because it's just you get to picture just these dudes hanging out and being pals, even when the cameras aren't rolling.
Well, and then it
gives it an authenticity.
That environment, you don't have to have the acting chops on. You don't have to be pretentious and have to make sure you have calculated answers, you know? Mm-hmm. Like, I bet you they all got to, like, hang around and just tell stories and just kind of get to develop a relationship among... He probably wanted them to feel like a team.
Yeah.
You know?
For sure. And it's funny that you say team, and that this movie is about them being in this house because they're on the same baseball team. When I clocked this watching it, they don't start playing baseball really until like an hour 18 minutes into the movie, which is not an issue that I have at all. Like, I don't care that, like, if this movie they never play baseball at all.
It's a backdrop.
It's a backdrop. It's a reason. It's an excuse. it's sort of like a talking point for them to like talk about their macho-ness and their egos.
I mean, football, this stuff, like, so, college-wise, this would be like two-a-days and at, Ferris or at Grand Valley. Baseball does this where they have spring ball or fall ball where they prep for the spring. Mm-hmm. They move them into the dorms. You're always, like, in two-a-days, right, for football. They'll move into the dorms 2-3 weeks before the whole school gets on campus. You know, so there's nothing facetious about it. I mean, and they're kind of like, hey, we can't start practice till we start this. So like they'll assign, a team leader, someone to organize everything. Usually it's a senior to get everything going.
Yeah, and I say this in the most complimentary way I possibly can.
Yeah,
this movie feels quite long. And it feels like it takes a while for it to do anything, but that's a good thing. I like that it takes that time because you're really just kind of marinating in with the characters and how they interact with each other and like their dynamic. And I don't know, it's just, you're hanging out with them. You're spending time with them. You're getting to know them. And even if you're someone who's like me, admittedly, not a sports macho guy or whatever, I tend to lean more towards, the art kids when they have their little artsy-fartsy party.
Which was another fun scene.
Right, exactly. But even if you're someone like me who is not that, like, testosterone-filled and, like, sports-obsessed, you can still find something in this movie to latch onto and enjoy just in the sheer absurdity of how they interact with each other. Like, the jokes and the quips and how Glen Powell is, like, the most charismatic man alive in this entire universe
right now.
So let's talk about him.
Okay.
It's a good segue into Glen Powell.
Yeah.
He's my favorite part of this movie.
Really?
I think he fucking kills it.
He does it. This is what got him all these other parts. I'm telling you, this is what got him the Top Gun part.
So I'm kind of beating ourselves up a bit at the thought of this was almost kind of like a missed opportunity type of thing. Because Richard Linklater came out with a new movie on Netflix called Hitman.
Yeah.
With Glen Powell.
I know. What's really funny
and I saw that movie and he's in the fucking pocket. I will tell you that right now. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
What do you mean in the pocket? Like
he's great.
Oh yeah. I think that thing's been getting positive reviews.
Yeah, for good reason, I will
say. It's kind of gone over miss me because I don't watch a lot of cable and I got to get my Netflix subscription back going. We had some technical difficulties.
Sure.
Nothing with pirating or anything like that. Just switch phone accounts. So I completely forgot about this. And then all of a sudden on my Facebook, it's been popping up like the last week. I don't know if it's because I've said Glen Powell out loud or what.
Probably.
But like all of a sudden I see all these and I go, oh shit. Like this, I kind of want to check it out. And then I did see it's getting like decent reviews too. So yeah, no, he's going to be, I'm telling you right now, I think he's going to be the next Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt. You know, he's going to be your fun, kind of like where Gosling's at right now. I don't know if this is pinnacle Gosling or if he'll be able to turn it over once he starts losing the looks a little bit.
I mean, I think that's a fair comparison. And it's not like Glen Powell is like the youngest actor working right now. He's in his mid-30s.
Yeah, but that's what usually where you got to be his age but look like you're 28 or 29.
He's kind of, I feel like he's almost in that Collateral era Tom Cruise where like it feels like he's a skilled enough actor to kind of like do whatever.
I think he's like Days of Thunder Tom Cruise. I think we're looking at like late 80s, early 90s Cruise. Like if he takes on a serious role, that might be his Rain Man.
I think if you watch Hitman, you might think a little different.
You've seen it?
I've seen it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's great, but
yeah, but Tom Cruise in Collateral is like that's a big
I'm not exactly
step.
saying like that role specifically. I'm just saying like that era of time, Tom Cruise, where it's like it feels like he can kind of just do whatever he wants to do and it'll be at least interesting.
Yeah, he is getting that recognition. You got to have some. Well, the production house has got to sign off. So now whenever they're talking to producers and they want to get their A-lister, you get Glen Powell in the mix.
Yeah, and there's a good reason. The dude slays it.
Yeah, he's
skilled.
That's what I was saying. So like we were talking about him, and this is the first time that So the first time I saw this, I walked away, and he was my favorite character, like walking away from it, because I was like, man, that guy's he's got a great understanding. He's kind of like the cool guy that you'd want to hang out with or be with on the team, but also kind of nerdy enough to understand that that's why he doesn't fit in with McReynolds and the other guy that, is completely fucking sucking up to him.
Yeah.
And so he does an awesome job. And then I thought he was a little bit more Chris Pratty, being like more of a one hit. I've only got charisma.
Sure.
Which is, I think, where Cruise was kind of at, in the 80s, was good looks, charismatic, action guy, one note. This is all he can do. And then he started taking on some serious roles. And I bet you, Powell, I bet you his next film is going to be something in a serious manner, which we actually get to see. All right, can he hold the weight of a drama?
Yeah, and I definitely think he could, because, like, coming from, like, a more, I guess, comedically colored background, even though, like, not all the movies he's been in are comedies.
Right.
He's still able to be funny on screen. And I think a lot of actors who are funny on screen can pull off being dramatic almost easier than being funny.
Well, that's what they say comedians have the best range, because it's the hardest thing to do is to make different groups laugh.
Yeah. And when a comedic actor goes into a dramatic role that works really well, it's always that thing of like, oh shit, like this is almost hitting
Robin Williams.
This is almost hitting twice as effective.
Yeah.
As if you hired like Leo or something, you know? It's like almost more impressive that you got Jim Carrey to be serious in this movie. Of course, I'm talking about the number 23, the most serious movie of all time.
Damn it, I wish I could remember the other one.
Number 24?
No.
The one that we almost paired it with, Dark Crimes.
Dark Crimes.
It takes a dark mind to solve a twisted crime.
Oh, damn it, they missed it. Twisted mind to solve a dark crime.
They missed it. We missed it. Yeah. We could have covered it.
We got to get our own production house going.
Yeah, there's still time. But yeah, Glen Powell, favorite part of the movie.
So mine right now, actually, it transitioned to Willoughby. Willoughby is probably my seeing it the 12th time that I've seen it now or whatever it is. He's actually now transitioned into my favorite character, and so it's funny because we're a little foreshadowing about the Sandlot, and I don't know if I was talking to you or my brother about it relating to characters.
Yeah,
he's actually the one I can most relate to now in this film because he plays
because he's 30.
Yeah, exactly. The wise older guy. No, but I mean, one of my favorite, so one of the biggest things that I remember taking away, I was like, man, I wish I would have had this advice when I was in college. Mm-hmm. But when they're playing pool and it's him and Jake's like, you ever notice how like everyone kind of hates us? He's like, yeah, man, because we're weird. We're different. He's like, no one else goes out there on the mound.
Great scene.
Yeah, and he's
very
like,
memorable scene.
You've got to embrace that inner weirdness, man. Mm-hmm. It's just like what makes us different. And that's what they can't stand, and that's what they can't take away from us. And I'm watching that, and I've seen that speech 1,000 times, and I'm watching it. I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, like that's almost like coaching, And then, hey boys, here for a good time, not a long time.
Yep. Hey, turns out Willoughby was 30 and he was hopping from school to school on a baseball scholarship.
Oh, and then he leaves the best. He left us. What did he say? He took all of his, he took all of his records, but he left this giant roach, man.
Yeah. I thought he left like one album, and on top of it was like a giant joint or something.
Yeah. That's what he.
Either way, it's fun.
Like when they walk in, this movie kicks off with My Sharona and Jake driving some GT muscle car, right? Going down, just thumping with the windows down, and you're kind of like, all right, this is like a cool vibe, And I think we don't necessarily know he's a freshman, right?
I don't think so. We only get it from the dialogue of when he enters the house and Mac and the other suck-up guy find him first.
Yeah, and then he sees one of the interesting things I saw in this too, like right at the beginning was I don't know, I think Linklater was using it to kind of like connect the times and saying, everything was so connected, versus where we're at now, because he shows a hose and the hose running all the way up to the to the waterbed, and then in another scene as he's going up the steps, he sees the phone line running all the way into the bedroom, and I'd have to imagine there's probably more connections of like lines, where now we're so isolated because everything's on Wi-Fi. Yeah, maybe back then it was supposed to be symbolic of how everyone was attached, essentially. But yeah, he goes in there, and then it immediately just kicks off. Like there's no exposition, there's no nothing. I mean, they kind of you must be the new pitcher or whatever. Like, what position you, man?
Yeah, I like how it's set up in that it almost sort of makes you think that that's how everyone's going to act towards him.
Yeah,
is that like it's going to be a Sandlot situation kind of where everybody's kind of rough on him, like sort of this level of hostility throughout the entire house, and then you realize like, oh, Mac is just kind of like a little bit of a douchebag in the way he's acting towards him.
Yeah,
he's the alpha male. He's like still kind of laid back enough, but like he has a bit of a temper. But then when he goes upstairs, everyone's like, "Oh yeah, what's up, man? Yeah. Like, welcome to the house or whatever." It's pretty chill.
We're the next guys on the rung.
Yeah,
that's what I was. It's fun kind of watching it too. Is you're trying to like, all right, who fits in where? And obviously, with like anything, you get. I mean, sports wise, especially in college, you got the top guy. Mm-hmm. And then you got the next 3 or 4 guys. And then you got, because there's only 26 dudes on the team, right? Yeah. Maybe 35 if you're. I don't. And anyways. So, I mean, and then you kind of get through the rung status of who fits in where, which is kind of fun. Like right up front, too, you get an idea of like, all right, this is who you're going to be kind of in connection with and talking with versus, guys are either you're above, like Buter, he already knows. There's another guy, the guy with the mustache.
Oh, yeah, the other freshman guy, the like knuckle flicker man.
Yeah. And you kind of realize, all right, Jake's going to be above them, but below these guys, he's starting to ascend into this crowd. And it's really fun to kind of watch that, like, hierarchical status just moving throughout the thing too, because I think towards the end when they're playing the Manitowoc Moose game or O Canada, he's sitting there, he's like, hey, dipshit, and Charlie here think that Pete Ward's real, and then they all snap their heads, and they're like, Pete Ward is real.
What are you trying to say, Jake?
Yeah. And then you realize, like, oh, nope, he's still, because he thought he made it. He made it. He got through the baseball practice. Mick Reynolds doubled off him. It's like, oh, yeah, I am a freshman, and then he thinks he's like, all right, I'm part of the group. And then they hit him with the fuck you talking about?
But it's nice because that's kind of how they interact with all of them in a way.
At some points, like Buter,
even at a certain point, like Glen Powell gets shit later in the movie.
Yeah,
for like hitting on the chick with the horoscope or whatever.
Yeah, they're making that's how. Yes, that's how teams work, man. Especially when it's getting to like masculinity like that. It's like, oh yeah, even he's filling up too much shit in that bowl right now that even he can't handle.
Yeah, I like how the first person that he sees when he goes to the house is Niles, just kind of like,
doing his
weird thing,
Rolf Macchio out in the...
and then he just kind of looks at him.
Yeah,
and it's like you can already tell that this dude's like kind of out there.
Oh yeah, like, why is he by himself? What's he doing?
And then he starts the fight at the bar. And it's sort of like almost set up to be like, oh, this guy's going to be like a problem. This is going to be the point of conflict in the movie. And it kind of is, and then it kind of isn't.
They lead it up to the showdown.
And then it's just done. Like it's just kind of left for another day or another time after the movie's timeline of what we see.
I think all the guys eventually, I mean, for the most part, are accepted onto the team. And I think that was like kind of like the big thing is like, once you're going from high school, being top dog at your high school, you're getting in, and like you said, he's like, you're competing with a bunch of men, dude, 22, 24-year-old guys here who you're trying to take their spot. Yeah. Like, and you're 4 years younger. Like they're much more wiser. They know the ways of the world a little bit more. They've discovered their identity and who they are and accepted themselves. And then, after the whole conflict that happens on the field, Jay Niles, they go into the river. Remember, they're encouraging him to jump, and then he jumps, and then everyone's celebrating because he's starting to fit in a little bit more.
Yeah, he's still like one of them, despite being the most out there character.
Yeah,
which is nice.
Go get your fucking ball. Sign it for you.
Yeah, shove it up your ass.
You and me, I'm a top prospect.
The most tense scene in the movie, and it still kind of just ends with him going up to him and being like, hey, we good?
We good.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, it's the reason why I truly appreciate this film is because it's one of the dynamics of sports that a lot of films look on the glory or the wins or losses, and the shortcomings and the successes that you have. And this one, much like The Sandlot 2, focuses more on the team dynamic and trying to, where in The Sandlot they are working towards a goal. This one is more so of working about just bonding. Like and a team facet, every year it gets reset. Every year you got different personalities coming in. Every year you've got someone that's going to be like a Jay Niles that wants to challenge the alpha, even though he hasn't even been into the group or initiated yet. You got these freshmen that really don't know who they are, and then you got all these kids that are kind of still going along the ways discovering. Because that's what the Finn thing I thought was really funny. Because he's blowing smoke up his ass, but Finn's also trying to discover like a little bit more about how he's going to relate to the world, and he might always be that smooth talking, charismatic dude.
Well, there's that great conversation he has with Jake, I think, at the
emo
punk party.
Punk,
where they're talking about how Jake's sort of asking him like, so you're able to adapt to being a disco guy, to a rodeo guy, to a punk. Are we just sort of like doing this as a way to avoid figuring out who we are? And Glen Powell makes the good point of, hey, listen, if you're a bird, you got to do all this shit to impress a mate. I just have to put on a fucking shirt.
Yeah.
And there's like a resonance to that, in that like, oh, he's going to do what he wants to do because he wants to do it, even if it's, not totally who his character is. He's kind of just figuring it out.
Yeah.
And that's what they're all essentially doing.
Yeah.
Through hanging out this whole weekend,
Yes.
So, yeah, I really like that scene. I like how to... And this is just sort of like a series of things I appreciate about the movie on like a base level. Because I did just watch it last night.
Nice.
So the processing of it is still circling in my head.
I hope you have warm fuzzies right here.
I do have warm fuzzies, but I think that's because it's literally 90 degrees out right now.
Yeah, it's warm here.
It's fucking hot here in West Michigan.
It's fucking hot.
Yeah, and if you're listening from a hotter place, I'm sorry, but it's
Jar
hot
Jar Binks and
here also.
Tatooine, it's 132 degrees.
Yeah. Picture me as Ahmed Best, and I'm in the dumbest fucking getup you've ever seen in the desert, while some producer's going, this is fine, this is fine, this is bad, this is fine. What the fuck point was I about to make? What were we talking about?
You were talking about how you watched it last night in a series of events that you really appreciated.
Yeah, I mean, I'll get back to it, I'm sure.
Okay,
but yeah, no, like I said, this is a sort of like series of baseline thoughts that I have of like, there's just a lot of little things about this movie that I enjoy. You know, this isn't like a sort of Blade Runner to me, obviously, or like The Revenant, where like there's so many big things about this, because it's, this is a movie about like the little stuff.
The themes, this thing isn't like heavily themed out, and there's not a lot of politics or religion or the industrialism of man or anything like that, but it does focus on the theme of being part of a team, part of a group, and how we fit in. And you could probably make some heavier cases on evolution or looking at networking and where you fall within a network, but with that being said, it's slice of life, and I think that you really got to appreciate it just because you're able to go out throughout the days with these guys and feel like you're living in that world with them, and not really once, I don't think it pulled out of that world.
No. Well, I will say, and I remembered what I was going to say, and it segues perfectly from what you were just saying.
Okay.
About how there's this dynamic throughout the whole film, basically, where they're in the house, they're kind of giving each other shit, they're palling around, there's this back and forth, this level of confidence that pretty much each of them has, other than maybe, say, Buter, because he's the only one who's kind of like a stick in the mud. Yeah. There's this level of like dynamic that they have with each other that sort of seems seamless throughout the thing. And then you get the phone call with Jake and Beverly, played by Zoe Deutsch, where like it almost feels like the entire sort of vibe of the movie changes, in that because we're now interacting with someone who is so outside of that world, that the way that they talk to each other is just so like lived in, but like also awkward and familiar.
Oh yeah,
and like it feels like a phone call that you yourself have had with like a potential crush or a date.
Oh
you
yeah,
know?
dude, I this thing nails a lot of things on that. Like Linklater got the vibes and the energy of the film, I think, spot on. And some of those moments that you're talking about with being able to match the awkwardness that it is. I mean, this was back in the day too, which is funny. You had to do something like that. You had to leave your number and some flowers or something like that if you're trying to court someone, and then you got to get on the phone and it's like, when do you want to hang out, and all this awkward tension going on because it's like, I've really just seen you. I don't know anything about you. This could be totally weird, and then they do meet up, and I love so they meet up and the panning out scene when she's just explaining like what high school life was like or what she's doing at the college, and it's just his face is just sitting back, he's just nodding. He's trying to like, don't know what the fuck you're talking about or like what's going on here, right. But like I want to seem interested, and that slow pan out just makes you feel like you're exiting his brain with him, like you're disassociating. And I was like, oh my God, that's so funny. Because, when you're trying to get to know someone, it's really hard to stay in the moment 24/7 and listen and like empathize and understand and be able to relate. Because like what you said, they get on the phone, you could tell there's no relation between what each other are doing.
Yeah.
Yet they both find out that they're both trying to fit in within a group dynamic. I really liked that she was going into theater and that, like she said,
it's so different from what he's all about.
Well, I mean, in terms of like what you're doing, but when it comes to actually trying to compete, she's doing the same thing. She's like, I'm trying to compete with actors or actresses that had me by 5 years. I'm just out of high school doing Wizard of Oz, and here they are already doing Les Mis, and they're making money off of it. So you understand? She comes in and she's got to be like, now I got to search for the top dog too and try to work my way up.
I think she was doing Alice in Wonderland, if I will throw in a quick correction.
That is at the party. Now, maybe that party did relate to what they were doing.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm an artsy-fartsy nerd, so yeah. That's where my recognition lies. But yeah, building off of what you were saying, Linklater, a lot of his movies, they just seem like that's sort of their thing. Where like conversations between people, even like if it's platonic or romantic or anything, they feel genuine and lived in. And that's the case for this movie especially. I think that's the case for his Before trilogy, which I've heard is really good and I need to check out. I'm not entirely sure how Dazed and Confused is, but seeing as how this movie is compared to that quite a bit, I would imagine it's of a similar ilk.
You have not seen Dazed and Confused?
I have not.
Oh, yeah.
Not yet. And even in a movie like Hitman, where like I won't give anything away, but like even the conversations in that film, even though that's not like the meat and potatoes of it, it still feels like the work is being put in to make it feel genuine. Which, it seems like a running theme through Mr. Linklater's filmography.
I think he's very,
He almost feels like a Cameron Crowe if Cameron Crowe wasn't as, like, fluffy.
Yeah, well,
or sentimental.
He's got a stream of conscious going. So, like, when he writes his stuff, I definitely feel like more of his stuff is in the moment with the feelings and energy and kind of what it was like to be in that moment where, a lot of other films that you watch, it's not necessarily being in the moment, it's understanding character motivations. So that way the next scene logistics makes sense with what they're doing and approaching. Whereas in his stuff, and I really like it. I wish he did some more like this and not necessarily of life. But that stream of conscious, just being able to roll into events and be with people at certain junctions, where you're just looking at them being at the Disco Fox or whatever it's called, and being able to hang out in the bar with them for 20 minutes, or being up in a room talking about music, for 15 minutes or whatever it was.
I will say this, going back to my original point of this feeling like a long movie, this is, to me, a movie that feels long that I still enjoyed. Like, I was never bored of it. Even throughout the scenes where I'm like, when are they going to play baseball? When is this going to happen? Yeah. Is this going to resolve to anything? Even when I was thinking of scenes like that, I still was interested in what was going on and, just sort of okay with hanging back and enjoying the vibe.
Yeah, I think this film isn't necessarily one that you're going to sit back and be able to get into some really deep thoughts with your friends about.
Yeah.
But it is one that it's able to come up, the characters themselves, and if you've been a part of like some groups like that, seeing those type of archetypes of people play out, Yeah.
So let's play a quick game.
Okay.
You want to guess the budget of this movie and then guess the box office.
God, this is so tough. See, these things that don't get heavily marketed, that's where like you double the budget for marketing, so it wasn't heavily marketed. Not a lot of big names in this thing. I am going to go with a budget of $25 million.
Nope. It's $10 million.
Fuck, I was gonna go with. My first one was 15.
Yeah,
and then I was like, "What'd they make Godzilla -1 for?"
Right. Yeah, you should have Price is Right it. What was the box office?
I'm gonna go with a box office of $88 million.
$5.4 million.
Oh,
this was a bomb.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like it. These types of movies, if they don't get, they're not going to get heavily marketed, right? But also, I think there's a certain demographic, like when we talk about like foreign films, or subtitle films, however you want to whatever we classify them as. If they don't get marketed like that, they're only going to hit a certain target,
I'm wondering if people watched the previews for this and thought to themselves, "Oh, is this going to be like another sort of like American Pie type of movie where it's like." Douchebags partying in college and like there's tits and ass and girls everywhere and like it's gonna come out with a cover that has like the unrated stamp on it with like a girl hiding her chest or something. But no, it's not like that at all. And I like the fact that this movie is so different from like an American Pie or something.
Yeah.
Where like those movies are just concerned with like, hey, let's give the audience a boner. Whereas this movie is like, yeah, we're gonna show you a few boobs and obviously these guys are going to be obsessed with getting girls, but like it's going to feel authentic. It's not going to feel like it's objectifying anyone really. And
and it's funny too.
I think you only see like one pair of boobs real quickly.
This came out, I think. Well, there's the first night when they're all getting lucky.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of.
But it's really funny because they're chasing tail the whole time, but you can only assume they, no one really got lucky on the other nights. You can only assume.
Right. And I like that that's not the movie's focus.
No, well, this thing really portrays what it's like being, you go out every night, you get 3 nights, and not to say that you're trying to hook up every night, but it's not like you hook up every night. It's not like, a lot of the times, sometimes you just end up having fun and it's like, let's just go home. Like, the party at the baseball house the second night, that's probably the closest that you get to objectifying anyone.
Yeah.
Even then, what's his nuts? God, I can see his face. I can't see his. I can't think of his name. The weird guy.
You're gonna have to be more specific. Niles.
No, it wasn't Niles. It was the one that did the flicking of the knuckles.
Nesbitt.
Austin
Amelio.
God, Nez is so fucking weird.
Mm-hmm. Tag yourself. I'm probably him, honestly.
Oh, in this,
if I'm anyone in this movie, it's probably him. And that's not just because of the mustache.
No, I wholeheartedly agree with that. No, I think I'd probably be a little closer to Willoughby, I think.
Yeah.
Like now, like just being able, like he was literally there just to hang out and have fun. Like if you think about it, he wasn't chasing tail. They didn't show him going out at night. Anytime that he was hanging out, he's either hanging out with someone or he's kind of, by himself. Just he's already accepted who he was and what he wants to do. No, one of my favorite like short scenes is him and Finn because they gravitated towards each other the most, probably because they had somewhat of the same line of thoughts. Yeah. Where Finn acted more on them, where Willoughby just is like, I'm older, I don't need to live that life. Mm-hmm. But when they're playing golf on the top of the building and they hit it and then they stop and they do the golf clap.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's who I'd be. But anyways, the closest you get, but Naz ends up hopping in the mud fight with that chick and gets his ass kicked.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
which is kind of like expected, like, oh, he's gonna fail against this challenge, facing a woman, and it's gonna be funny.
Yeah, that's how it's not. That's how it rolls. I think this thing plays off I hate keep using the word vibes.
I know it kind of becomes tiring after a while.
Very hard.
But it's hard to describe this movie in another way that feels, lived in. It's a vibe. It's hanging out. It's not concerned with typical narrative or conflict or anything.
Well, I think
that.
I think the best part it's nostalgic, and the best part of the thing about this is probably go back into your 20s, and when you had a weekend where it's not like you had a lot of money, but you were gonna have a lot of fun, and if you could transition into different settings and get a little bit more perspective on life. Mm-hmm. And that's where that's why I keep using the word vibes. It's just because it's hard to explain how you're kind of rolling through all these different settings and scenarios and people adjusting on the fly while there's no high stakes involved.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Cool. I think that about wraps it up unless there's anything else you want to touch on.
What favorite scene or setting?
Favorite scene or setting? I do like... the conversation between Glen Powell and Jake at the punk rock concert was really resonating. I liked the scene with the ping pong is kind of cool just because it's sort of like Jake sort of getting one on Mac a little bit, deservedly, I would say.
Oh, yeah.
And that's just fun kind of seeing him lose it and Jake kind of has his haha, I got you sort of thing. So yeah, that's cool. And the axe splitting was really neat. Yeah, I would say. Good. What about you?
I would say favorite setting, I think would be when really when it's at the baseball house during the day. There's 2 different days that they're kind of hanging out there, lounging. Mm-hmm. It might have been the same. Either way. The first axe splitting when they're all kind of, Willoughby's out there and he's talking to Jake. He's like, they're sitting in the van and he's kind of going over what's up with all the machismo going on and all this. And Willoughby explains it. And then he's like, you want some of this joint, man? I don't know if you smoke or not. And he's like, yeah, And then when they actually go inside the ping pong, and they're playing on the mini basketball hoop and they're knuckle flicking. Even one guy's playing the Game Boy or the whatever it is.
Yeah, he's playing some analog old school game thing you probably can get at a gas station or something.
Yeah. I loved all of the short, quick, competitive moments between guys, and not everyone was just the top guy at everything. Mm-hmm. Mac losing and ping pong versus I think he lost with the other guy in the foosball thing.
Yeah.
So you're seeing that Mac necessarily might not have the skills in these other facets, but then you go to the baseball field and he's the top guy.
Favorite setting, I will say real quick, and this isn't to say this because it's finally they're finally playing baseball. I do like the baseball field. They go to. It's just because it's simple, and I like the framing of it, and the color grading and everything looks really good.
Yes,
and that, that's something we haven't really talked about much too. Is the technical stuff is this movie looks good. It's not shot like a Nicholas Winding Refn movie or anything, but
be weird.
Doesn't need to be.
No,
it does. It does the job, and I think it does it well enough.
There's enough of a tint and sort of that glossy oranged over vibe of the. I wish I could remember what that's called. The old Polaroids? If they aged out a little bit, the color scheme would go off a little bit.
Yeah, it's a little desaturated.
Yeah. There's a little bit sometimes with that going on. I don't know if it was the Texas heat or they're just trying to give it a little bit of that feel.
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, I feel like this movie is just maybe a little more colorful than The Sandlot in a way.
Yeah, but I think it's just because with the cameras that you have now.
Well, then there's also this effect that I feel like they're using in Sandlot that we'll talk about when we talk about this movie.
Sweet.
But there's different things going on between them.
Last thing I want to say too is just to go with chef's kiss on the whole thing. So we talked about Nez a little bit, and this is just and I don't know if anyone listening is a baseball nerd or not, but he was throwing, if you watch him in the pitching warm-ups as they were going through, shots of guys doing different things, he was a submariner, right? Mm-hmm. So typically pitchers, they throw over the top or off to the side. There's one out of every 500 pitchers that come through are submariners that actually make it to the big leagues that I get to see. Now, there could be more, right? But it's a very niche amount of people that do it, and it's a very funky arm delivery, right? So it was a very nice touch on the character of Nez to make him so weird and to also have him be one of these very unique pitchers that you never see, you know, to make him even more eccentric or weird, you know? And yeah, I love that. Oh, sorry. Favorite scene, Pete Ward. There we go. That's it. There we go.
This is why we have you as our co-host, so you can give us the sports context that we need for when we need it.
Once out of every 2.5 years.
Yeah, once out of every, 74 episodes, you know?
Yeah. Can't wait for 148.
Yeah. Oh, boy. Can't wait to recommend Rollerball for episode 136.
Okay. We're not talking futuristic sporting events. What one, original or the remake?
I'll let you decide. I watched one of them, and I can tell you later which one it was.
I could guess what one it was.
Yeah. So yeah, we can get into ratings.
Yeah.
I guess I can go first.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a very high 8 out of 10.
Oh,
I would say.
Yes. There we go.
Yeah, very enjoyable. I will say the only reason I would probably give it an 8 and not a 9 is perhaps the rewatchability. I would say that this is one that, despite how much I enjoyed it, it is a longer film, and it feels long because it's very methodically paced, and I would say that I'm not clamoring to rewatch this anytime within a year, maybe.
Yeah.
But still, I do like this film. I like the characters and the writing. They're the strongest part for sure. And yeah, everything else is just sort of the cherry on top.
No, that's fantastic to hear. Because I mean, it really, I was like, this could go one of two ways, you know. And I'm happy it went the one way as opposed to the other. Yeah.
Boring. When are they going to play baseball?
Well, and that's if you're looking for it, you know, which is, it's kind of weird. I mean, I was excited too, because I was like, this thing didn't get marketed heavily. And if you watch it, you know, it centers around baseball. But I
had no fucking clue it was going to be about. I had heard of this movie before.
Yeah.
I had always assumed it was some sort of American Pie college frat bro movie. I had no idea baseball was a part of it at all.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So I had, you know, and I'm going off of it.
The title, everybody wants some. I was like, is it just about dudes getting laid? Is that it?
I knew it was about baseball. I had no idea that it was a slice of life. You know, we're going to be following this kid for 3 days. So I was like, oh, cool. It's going to be kind of like that team dynamic. Maybe we'll be with them in the season, you know, like the Mighty Ducks or something. Mm-hmm. I had no idea that it was going to be like that. So it's actually kind of funny that we have two different viewpoints of what we were about to watch. No, this thing is for me, and I think that it's just the difference of you know, upbringings or where we've been to. I mean, with the being sports and team oriented, I love this thing. I got done with it, and I think the next day, me and Jasmine were going somewhere, and I looked at her, I was like, I enjoyed that movie way more than I should have last night, you know? And she's like, why? You're not supposed to enjoy it? I was like, I've seen it 12 times. I was like, it was just as good that time as the first time I had watched it, you know? And it does. You have to give this thing, for me at least, a little bit of time to breathe. You know, I don't think I could, and I've already seen it quite a bit. So, anyways, this is a 10 out of 10 for me. I love this film. I think it's absolutely pinpoint, especially with the coaching at Ferris and actually seeing this lifestyle too of what it's like to be a freshman coming in and how much fun it would be just to be Jake for a day. You know, to get in with a smaller group of guys. Toured around, kind of showed what it's like to be one of the big dogs, but also be put in your place every once in a while. And then the small things that go on within the group that, you know, the Manitowoc Moose game, O Canada, or Pete Ward, or just even going to the freaking acting house, you know, for the last scene. It's like these guys shouldn't even fit in at all, and yet they still find themselves having a good time.
Yeah, I really like it. Really enjoy it. Cool. Well, speaking of baseball, we got another movie that's about baseball, but it's also about friendship.
Yeah.
And I would say those two go hand in hand, glove in glove.
Oh,
if you will.
I don't know, because I don't think they fit.
Well, not his stupid plastic glove that he has at the beginning.
Ball and mitt.
Ball and mitt.
The old adage.
Yeah. You know, the age-old adage from 1962. Yeah. So this movie we're talking about, of course, is The Sandlot, released in some countries as The Sandlot Kids.
Oh, no.
I think I like the original a lot better. That seems like a mouthful. The Sandlot Kids.
There was actually
it sounds like a little baby version of The Sandlot.
Yeah, I don't like. I read some tidbits on this thing. That The Sandlot was not the first iteration of the title either. It was actually got right before it got marketed and distributed. They had to come up with a new title, or they switched it up.
Do you remember what the old title was?
It was like
I tried to quickly research some production of this movie, and like Wikipedia has no page on it at all.
I did. I found out some facts that I'll try to.
Thank God.
If I can remember, I'll sprinkle them in.
I'm dropping the ball here.
It was called the boys of yesterday or something like that.
That sounds like a nothing title.
It was it doesn't roll off, right? Like The Sandlot is so fucking ubiquitous now, right? Is that the right?
Ubiquitous.
Ubiquitous?
Yeah, I'll give you half points for it.
Okay, I'll take that.
Mm-hmm.
I came up with horticulture earlier, so I think I've evened up to 1 now.
He did. I can verify. I was there.
Thank you. So I'm going to pull up the page that I had found if you want to go through and...
Yeah, for sure. So, like I said, this is The Sandlot, came out in 1993. It is a coming-of-age sports comedy film directed by David Mickey Evans, who, if you don't know who that is, I think he's mostly known for directing the Air Bud movies.
Yeah, I don't know if... Yeah, I wouldn't really talk about it. He hasn't come up with much since this.
That's not true. I think I'm thinking of someone else. He did direct The Sandlot 2, Ace Ventura Jr., Pet Detective. He's directed a lot of bullshit, essentially.
Yeah. Oh, dude,
his filmography is almost nothing.
You know The Simpsons, where they're the writer came from the future and predicted events?
I mean, I'm not a huge Simpsons guy, so you might have to elaborate.
Oh, there's a whole bunch of memes that come out with The Simpsons predicting events.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like that
Simpsons,
was...
yeah.
I feel like that was this
Trump
guy.
or whatever.
Yeah, he came, he's like, holy shit, I gotta, went to 2050 and was like, they're not playing on The Sandlot anymore. Boy, wouldn't that be a great idea? Came back to 1990. Because everything after that is shit. Right?
Yeah, it's all what happened here? You struck lightning once and then you just kind of shit the bed.
Yeah.
But yeah, directed by David Mickey Evans. And it's about this young boy, probably around 9 or 10 or something, I would say. Scotty Smalls, who moves into a new neighborhood with his mom and his stepdad, played by Dennis Leary.
Yeah, great.
In one of the most reserved roles Dennis Leary has ever played in.
Dude, imagine that being your first
agrees.
time seeing Dennis Leary and thinking that's how...
That probably was my first time seeing Dennis Leary.
But I mean, did you see him and then remember... He was because
I wasn't gonna know who the fuck he was when I was 7 or however old I was.
I didn't know he was Dennis Leary, but then he was on this show on TNT called Fire
Rescue Me,
and he plays a fireman, but he's an alcoholic. And
yeah, he's playing sort of stereotypical Dennis Leary, I'm an asshole kind of guy.
Isn't he a comedian too?
Comedian. He does a lot of comedic songs. He was almost sort of an asshole Ford truck version of Bo Burnham back in the day.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I that stuff. Right when this came out, I'd seen it. You start seeing some of that. It's that guy. That's who he is.
Yeah.
He's not the Sandlot stepdad.
Yeah. Sandlot stepdad is the most least hinged, I would say, out of all the
fucking Babe Ruth falling. Dude, I don't even know what I do to it's kind of funny to think about.
Yeah. So anyway, Scotty moves into a neighborhood with his mom and his stepdad, and he does his best to make some friends, and he very much fumbles over making friends until Benny comes along and is like, hey, listen, we need an extra player. You want to join us?
We need the ninth guy.
We need the ninth guy.
Yeah.
Come with us. And, Scotty's a little bit insecure, shy. He's sort of the quiet kid. Doesn't really know how to interact with new people.
Yeah.
And there's a difficulty there. But Benny helps him overcome it, and then it becomes this sort of almost Tall Tale-esque odyssey of them trying to get back the Babe Ruth ball that he let them play with from his stepdad's room, his trophy room, that he hid over the fence, and they had to get it back from the Beast.
Yep.
And so, spoiler alert for The Sandlot. So I kind of teased this And by tease this, I mean I was excitedly exclaiming when you recommended this movie that this was a very formative movie for me in my childhood. This is probably, I would fairly confidently say that this was the first favorite movie I think I've ever had.
Oh, yeah.
Where, like, when I was a kid and people asked me, like, oh, what's your favorite movie? What's it? Like, probably between the ages of, like, 7 and, like, 11, I would probably have told them The Sandlot.
Yeah.
Without missing a beat. This movie I would watch constantly. I don't even think I could tell you how many times I saw it. The first time I ever watched it, it was at my babysitter's house. She happened to have it on VHS, and she was like, oh, you'll probably like this movie. And cut to many, many, many months later, I'm still watching it like day after day. Haven't gotten this movie out of my mind. It resonates with me like no other.
Yes.
And at the time, I did play baseball. Well, at first it was t-ball because, can't let little bastards play baseball full on yet.
Battered bastards of baseball.
Exactly. And so around the time I played the sport that is being portrayed in the movie, and so I related a lot to not only what was going on and what was being played, but also the fact that Scotty Smalls, has a hard time making friends. And I think that this movie portrays it in a way that feels, while cinematic at times, very genuine.
Organic.
It feels very familiar. It feels like I've been in situations that Smalls has been in, where like you're doing your best to try to make friends. There's already a dynamic there between them, so you're not entirely sure where you would fit in, if you even fit in at all. You kind of try to find a way in. There's a bit of resistance at first. You feel like an outsider, and then maybe one person in the group is like, hey, you want to hang out with us? We're doing this thing. And then you feel like $1 million because one of the kids that you want to be friends with wants to be friends with you.
Yeah.
And I don't know, there's just a lot about this movie that I resonated with on a personal level, with my own struggle of making friends when I was a young boy. You can maybe easily picture that if you know me currently.
I think everyone, dude, when you're that age, because they're supposed to be 9, 10, 11 years old, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have opinion-based stuff at that age. You don't have, this is the coolest thing to do. You don't have, oh, you're wearing Adidas, you should be wearing Nike. Those kids don't know shit. Mm-hmm. So at that point, just trying to fit in the group is the hardest thing to do. And everyone that was of that age probably had a hard time. Because it's not like you're discovering your identity or who you are, or understanding. You're just getting the world around you a little bit. You have to be home for supper. And you can't say the F word. Mm-hmm. That's about it. Like, those are your rules,
Yeah.
So it's a very wholesome vibe to be with these kids and seeing them like, one kid trying to make it into the group, but not having a particular agenda being played out. I remember being young at in elementary school trying to fit in with the football guys. Like, I didn't know what 1st and 10 was. Mm-hmm. I didn't know what 2nd and 5 was.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was a forward pass, And
I remember being like in 4th grade and trying to play like just playground football with the other kids.
Yeah.
And they're arguing about like which was first down, which was this, which was that. And I'm just standing there like, I don't know what the fuck these kids are talking about.
And that's how, like, if you don't know that, it's going to be a hard enough time fitting in. Mm-hmm. So having him, he's got to get the basic elements of catching a ball and throwing it down. And that's why I really liked it, is like when they first get out there, like, I think anyone of that age, like Benny in this thing is a phenomenal character and a true leader.
Benny is awesome.
Yeah.
He's a very good representation of like the type of friend you want to have when you're a kid.
Like, he knows he's really good at what he does, but he wants everyone to fit in around him.
He's got that like compassion that the other kids don't necessarily have yet at that stage, where like he recognizes that Smalls, while he's like an uncoordinated little fuck, he's still able to like kind of help him and teach him and be like, all right, I want this kid to be friends with me and be friends with all of us.
Yeah.
I've got to help him out in order for him to like fit in.
Well, it's kind of like a funny, like, he makes 9. We've finally got a team. I can finally rotate around all the positions that I need to rotate to get better for myself. So he's got like a little bit of a personal, like, this is going to help me out. But also, like, which I find what I it was interesting seeing it again because I always figured the dialogue between those guys at the beginning, there was a lot more going on. And it's literally Benny walking up to him being like, fucking put up your glove to the air and catch the fucking thing and then just throw it like a newspaper. That's all I need you to do. So like you kind of think that he's helping him out quite a bit, and he does because he breaks that insecurity that Smalls has. But at the same token, it wasn't like anything profound, and it wasn't like he was like, I'll practice with you after this. It was like, dude, sink or swim, this is what you got to do.
Yeah, he's not like saving Smalls' life or anything, but like it's enough to justify like the weight of it and get behind like, oh wow, there's like a genuine relationship being established here. And I also found it really interesting and kind of funny that Benny had such confidence in himself to get the ball into Smalls' glove that he just tells him like, oh yeah, just fucking hold it in the air.
Yes.
I'll do the rest of the work for you.
It's kind of funny like when you think about it because like you said, this is a very Odyssey, right? It's like a very kind of folklore-y tall tale. Yeah, and it's probably like how you would remember being that age, like thinking about all the things that you went through. And if you watch 9 or 10-year-olds play, like someone's like, dude, I hit that ball 400 feet. And then you go back and it just cleared the infield. But to them, they're like Mark McGwire for 3 seconds watching the thing soar because it's the furthest they ever hit it in their life. And it's like one of those core memories that you just establish, but all of a sudden that fish gets bigger.
Like, do you remember the time Benny hit the ball and like peeled it like an apple core?
Yeah, remember he shed all the weight. Yeah, and it's probably maybe a stitch fell out, in real life. But all of a sudden they get over there like, whoa, Benny, you beat the brains out of it.
Yeah, remember when the treehouse exploded into smoke and Tommy came out all covered in it?
Yeah,
there's so much of that in the movie, especially like towards the later half, obviously.
Yeah, but it all feels organic. Like you're never going through it where it's like so outlandish that it's
like you're not watching it going like, yeah, right.
Exactly.
Like the movie does enough to establish that this is kind of a fantastical portrayal of childhood and like how much of a tall tale it is when you're telling it later in life.
It's to some extent though, because I think with tall tales, like it's always like the legend of the snipe, or you got the Great Bambino called it out into left field. Like it's just enough on the cusp of reality that it's not like you have to like imagine it or it becomes so fantastical that it's not real. Like watching it as a kid, all that stuff, like you just easily believed it, right? Like even Hercules or the Beast, when they were showing it walking into the they had to bury it underground where he lived forever or whatever. And
forever.
Like that dog, you're like, that dog's probably that size, and it's almost startling. Like when
when I was a kid watching this movie, I believed everything that was being told to me.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, and even now it's kind of like when we talk about it, it's like, it's right there on the cusp of like, did it or didn't it happen? And you got to imagine it didn't, but like,
right, because like you're being told this story in a very fantastical way when Squints is saying, oh, he would eat the bones and all, and like you would see like the big old puppet of the dog in the black and white, and then you're like, okay, this is like a kid being a kid telling like a fucking a jape or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you watch the movie. I know, right? I just pulled that out of nowhere.
Yeah, you got it.
It must be the baseball tee I'm wearing right now.
You're rolling. Keep going.
I'm so sweaty. But then there's scenes later in the movie where like the ball's almost over the fence after Smalls launches it with his little gizmo.
Yeah.
And the dog just launches up and swallows it whole. It's like, that's a big fucking dog.
Yeah.
And like, obviously when you get older, you can tell like, oh, there's some puppetry work going on. It's like obviously very fake. But like when I was a kid, I was like, holy shit, that dog's scary.
Yeah.
And like there was a bit of this movie too that when I was a kid, there were certain scenes that I just couldn't watch because the dog scared me too much.
Same here, dude. When that thing, the first time they show it after like the bones, like you're like on the edge of your seat watching this thing, and all of a sudden they show that thing going underground. You're like, that thing's like 400 pounds. Holy fuck.
Yeah.
Killed
173 guys.
Yeah. It's funny too because like it's almost like a letdown when you actually see the size of this thing, which I appreciate now being older. I'm like, I love that
it's awesome.
Yeah, that they actually here is this English Mastiff and this is the size. And like when you're a kid, you're like, oh, that's not that big. But now you're like, God, I love that they played this thing out. I mean, it's like Jaws-esque.
Yeah.
You know?
And like, it's not like a small dog by any means, but like...
No, at the time, I mean, it was like it's 200 pounds.
Yeah. And like, the thing's barking at you and chasing you. But like,
yeah.
Once you see it, it like pulls you into the reality of like, oh, like this is just a dog, but they still have to deal with it. And it's like, I don't know. There's like, I love how long they take to hold it out. Because like, I don't think you see a single frame of any like real dog until that.
I mentioned Jaws because this thing does a great job of setting up this trepidation of what this dog is, because all you have are silhouettes, stories, and then one head at one point that you see before Benny actually meets the thing. So I mean, you have this whole build up to this point of he's got to pickle the beast, you know, and they actually do a great job getting you to that point, because as an audience member, you're like, dude, this thing's gonna fucking kill him.
Yeah.
You know, and then all of a sudden you see it and you're like, oh, it's a normal dog, but in your head you're still like, wait a second, like if this thing gets a hold of him, is he goner? Like, is he, like, I know it's just a dog, but it's still the beast.
And the barking and the sound design and everything is so effectively scary, especially when you're a kid, because like it feels like they turn up the volume on the barking a little bit too much, and like it's right in your face.
Yeah.
And like all the sound design going on when he like crashes through the window, it's like this very elongated, exaggerated thing. And like the movie theater stuff going on.
They hold on to it. Yeah, the Wolfman, and it's like, yeah, it's so well done.
Yeah, very well done.
This guy fucking suck.
I know, right? The downfall of a potential genius. I don't want to call him that though, especially after looking at his filmography.
Yeah, I would stay away from that.
Yeah,
it's a one-hit wonder.
Yeah, I'm staying on this side of the fence.
There we go.
Of David Mickey Evans.
Yeah.
So I've talked a bit about my childhood experience with this movie. And it sounds like this was also a film that you watched at an early age as well.
Dude, the reason why me and Sam are kind of into movies, and I actually got a funny story. My grandma, maybe not funny story for one of the films that we watched, but my grandma she'd order films. She lived in a trailer park, you know, on the north side of Muskegon, or maybe the northwest side of Muskegon. I can't remember. Anyways, but we'd always watch films over there, and this was one of the ones that she had. She had the VHS when they would put it in like the plastic one, not the sleeve, you know, but actually
like the clamshell.
Yeah, you'd open it up, and there'd be like the little bit of like a bubbly plastic there to protect it.
Yeah.
And
a bit of cushion for the pushing of the VHS.
Yeah, getting it into that VCR.
Mm-hmm.
But she'd always order films, and because like when we go over there, it's like, well, we got to do something, so you boys are gonna watch some movies with me. And she got this one, and it's not like she went out to the theaters to watch these things. She just would see like, hey, this is a kid's film, let's order it.
Yeah.
And we got this thing, and yeah, me and Sam were like hooked on it. Anytime that we'd go over there, I mean, I've probably seen this thing, like you said, well over 100 times in between the ages of 7 to 10. I mean, anytime that we'd go over there, we'd watch it. I still watch this thing. I have the DVD. Like I made sure that that made the case so I could show Preston one day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and yeah, so I've seen this thing a whole, and nothing to ever to think about. You know, any sort of like, oh, what's it really mean? Or is it, you know, it was always just, it's a very nostalgic movie. And even of the time
very much so.
I was telling Sam, we were talking about watching this thing. He came over a couple weeks ago, you know, to stay the night because he had to do something next day around the area. And we were talking about, he was talking about showing it to Preston, or we were kind of thinking about it because I'd already shown it to Preston because I wanted to tell him about it. And one of the things that the music in this thing, the music in it with the rockabilly going on, and like the, you know, hey down, hey down, hey, 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 you know, and just even like for Preston, I'm like, it invokes probably some feelings in him that he's never like thought or felt before, of like, man, this is kind of whimsical, you know?
Yeah.
And I remember thinking about that, like with even the, you know, when the dreams, not dream sequence, but right at the beginning with that music, it's almost like you're living in like a memory of someone.
Yeah, it almost feels like the type of music they're playing is music you would hear in like a 80s PSA video or something, where it's like the dangers of drunk driving and it's like kind of that twinkly sort of like magical, mystical
It's weird that you go with drunk driving and then magical and mystical.
Oh, I'm just thinking of Justin Timberlake of recent events. You know?
Yeah, I saw that he was put in handcuffs.
Yeah. Bad choice.
Oh.
Yeah.
No.
Well, did you not hear what happened with him?
No. I just saw
got
handcuffs.
a DWI, which is interesting when a celebrity gets that because I feel like they have so many modes of transportation when they're inebriated.
You'd be shocked, dude. Some of those guys like to live on the edge.
I guess.
I mean, you just want to feel alive again.
I just want to feel alive.
Yeah, I got all this money, don't know what to do with it.
I'm gonna drive drunk. It's like,
yeah.
I don't know.
At least that's the only thing that happened. I thought you were gonna say like hit someone or something like that.
No,
Yeah, he'll be on 300 hours of community service and $1,000 fine.
Which means that he'll have his assistant do the community service and then
sign off.
Yeah,
we'll take some public events. I'll sign a couple pages.
JT will apologize on X or whatever, and it'll be fine. He'll be uncanceled. He'll be in like another fucking About Time or whatever movie.
No, he's done with the films.
Yeah. Maybe.
Unless he's small roles.
Unless he's like Sean Parker from Social Network, then
that's what I'm kind of.
It's like the only one.
That's the only role he can really play.
Yeah,
2000 Silicon Valley guy.
Mm-hmm. Anyway,
going back to the whimsical, majestic mystique. Yeah, this thing is like I said. I mean, it feels like you're walking into a memory, and as you would have it, you are, and that's Like Field of Dreams is what came to mind for me. Mm-hmm. Hearing some of that is like if Costner was like going, "Let me tell you about the greatest summer I ever had." And that's how I felt watching the thing when I was young. I remember kind of being in awe, and you're a little envious of these guys too, because I'm at my fucking grandma's house. It's me and Sam. Mm-hmm. It was a summer like this. And you're sitting there, you're watching all these guys playing together, having fun, and so that was my experience.
It's funny that you bring up Field of Dreams because when Megan and I were at Paisley Pig the other day, they were playing Field of Dreams on the TV.
Really?
Yeah, Ray Liotta was there, Kevin Costner.
Ray Liotta was there.
And James Earl Jones.
Yes.
Which we'll get into later. I kind of want to talk about the way this movie's filmed.
Okay.
And the way it just looks visually.
Okay.
This movie, and I had never thought about it before watching it at this point, because this is the first time I'd seen it in probably maybe 10 years or something. Mm-hmm. It'd been a while. And one thing that really stood out to me this viewing is the fact that I don't know if they did this on purpose, if it was like a limitation of like the budget or the technology at the time, but I love the way that this movie looks like it was filmed in the 70s.
Yeah.
Like this reminds me of like
50s,
kind of 50s, 60s. Like it almost reminds me of like the way the lighting is and like the cinematography and like the focus on the characters with like the blurry background and like the desaturated colors. Yeah. It almost reminded me of like a Sergio Leone movie, like a Good, Bad, and Ugly type thing.
Yeah.
Where like there's this weird thing going on where like it looks older than the movie actually is.
Little heavy saturation going on.
And I can't tell if that's how they did it on purpose, which I'd like to think that they did.
All right.
Or if it was just like a limitation of like the tech that they had available and like the budget.
I think it's probably going to be, I would say a little bit of both. So reading up on this, they filmed this thing in Utah, Salt Lake City, somewhere around that area.
Yeah, very earthy.
Yeah, well, so they were saying...
I was almost wondering if they filmed it in, like, New Mexico, because it almost looks like a Breaking Bad set.
They said the temperatures got up to, like, 130 degrees in the shade. It took 40 days to film this thing, and the range of the temperature, so, like, there might just be something with the film being overheated or anything like that saturates it. That's what I was talking about with the Polaroids. If those things, when they come out, if the film, I'm guessing if it gets heated up enough by the lighting... it can provide some of that saturation because it just affects the lighting so poor. It affects the film so much.
Yeah, and it's appropriate that it's a heat wave in Michigan right now and that's 90 degrees out because this movie looks hot.
Oh, dude.
It looks warm to be in.
The funny thing is, so the Wendy Peppercorn pool scene?
Do I know the Wendy Peppercorn pool scene? Are you kidding me?
Two fun facts about that. One, that actress...
how old was she at the time?
I don't. So here's a couple things.
That's
all right.
One of the more concerning.
That
parts
I don't
of this
know.
movie.
I'm guessing she was probably like 17 to 20. All these kids look a little. There's something like with modern medicine, everyone's starting to age better into their life. Like if you go back into the 70s, like 40-year-olds look like they're 60. Right?
Yeah, Paul Rudd at the age he is now would look a lot more haggard and elderly.
Oh yeah,
if it was like 1980, whatever.
With everything going on with, I would say with modern medicine, food processing, the ability to keep up with some of the poor things that are going into our bodies, and maybe taking some things out of the world. But these kids, the director wanted to get 9 and 10-year-olds to actually portray the ages of these guys. Well, he found out 9 and 10-year-olds act like 9 and 10-year-olds. So these kids were all between the ages of 11 to 13. Mm-hmm. So that's why when it came to the Wendy Peppercorn scene, as we're going into the pool scene, the director got sued over the script of this film. Right? He what's his name?
David Mickey Evans
wrote it kind of based on his older brother and his memory of his older brother trying to fit into a group. He actually, a baseball got hit over a brick wall. He had to go over the wall. A dog attacked him as he was getting the ball and came back, got scratched up a little bit. So some of the characters were taken a little bit at lib or
creative liberties. I read about the lawsuits.
So anyways, the Peppercorn, her nickname was Bunny. She was a real life lifeguard at this pool that they would frequent, and the lady's name was Bunny. So Wendy Peppercorn became her name. She told Squints that they knew that they were going to do the kissing scene, and like verbally said, no, there will be no tongue. You keep that tongue in your mouth. Mm-hmm. Because she knew that she was doing this with this like 12-year-old kid,
right? And it's already kind of like a weird balancing act. I'm guessing, how do we do this?
Yeah, because she definitely, she's supposed to be 15 in the movie or something like that.
I think she's supposed to be 16.
16, yeah, like definitely looked like 18 to 20.
Sure, I don't know how old she actually was, but it is interesting the way that they did film some of her scenes when she's just like it just cuts to her ass as she's walking away.
Yeah.
It's like, oh boy, this would not be made now.
I said it. I don't know.
At least Disney not in this way.
Yeah, not in that way where it's just filming. Yeah, a 16-year-old girl walking like that.
Yeah, in slow motion.
Yeah. But the pool scene that day was his teeth are chattering. Mm-hmm. I was always curious about it because I just was like, why are they? They must have went in the water, came out, and got a breeze on them. It was 56 degrees shooting that day. So he's actually cold as fuck.
It's just kind of one of those accidental things where like they're chattering because it looks like they're like, they're kind of like lusting over Wendy Peppercorn or something, or like they're looking at her and they're acting weird. Yeah, where it's like, they're just cold as fuck.
Yeah. Yeah, so like chilled out of they couldn't believe it. So some of the things like when they're filming that stuff, like when they look hot as hell, it's probably because they're fucking hot as hell.
It's probably because they're melting into the ground.
Dressed like you, except with jeans on.
I almost thought about wearing jeans for this recording, which would not have done anything because nobody can see what I look like.
Right.
But I just for authenticity,
Spirit would have been there.
Yeah, kind of like what you did for fucking John Carpenter.
Oh, I'm gonna let you. Come on.
Big Trouble in Little China. I got there eventually.
Yes.
I almost just said Big China, which would not have been correct, and you would have slapped me across the table. But another fun fact about that pool scene, it is the first out of 2 moments in the film, despite this being a PG-rated film, where a character says shit.
Yeah.
Porter says it when Squints lays the smack on Wendy Peppercorn. He's like,
shit.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
And then the second time was when Benny has to run away from the dog.
Wipe out. Oh, shit.
Yeah. He's like,
jumps over the fence.
Shit.
Right?
Whoa, wipe out. Yeah. That's the second time. And I was like, I guess they can just say shit for a PG movie back in 1993.
Jaws was PG.
Exactly. Different.
Well, we didn't have the
times.
MPAA. Well, maybe it was.
We definitely did have the MPAA.
Yeah, they were.
Maybe David Mickey Evans
and R
paid them off or something.
Yeah. No, it all fits in with the context of how you're saying it, and they're allowed a couple cuss words.
Oh yeah, and it helps the authenticity because, kids that age, they're definitely saying it at that time, especially in 1962 or whatever the fuck when as long as they weren't like boofing cigarettes in front of their parents, they could do whatever they wanted.
How about Big Chaw making its way into this thing?
So what's funny about that scene, and I'm glad you brought it up, is when I was a kid, I always thought that always thought that the joke was that they were eating candy.
Yes.
And that they were getting sick from the candy because they ate too much, and then they rode on the ride and it caused them to throw up. And, obviously you get older, it's like, oh, that was chewing tobacco. They even say it in the movie. It's like, oh, yeah, this is chewing tobacco. The real stuff. And he gives it a big old fucking sniff.
Yeah.
And, this is kind of like a drug thing, sort of. Except it's like a nasty form of tobacco.
It's odd that they... Like, you'd think that... Well, I mean, especially now, you're like, geez. Like, even Preston watched us, I was like, hope he doesn't, like, pick up on that or anything.
He's not gonna pick up.
Dude, this thing is so weird because like you're like, I'll watch it till I'm 11, 12, then I'll be done with it for 8 years, and then I'll know everything that they're talking about by the time I turn it back on. So there's never in like the formative years of being like, oh, I've heard of that stuff or I've seen that stuff. Like, oh, I know the Wendy Pepper. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's so weird that there's like there's an age range with this thing of which it just completely eludes anyone from probably the age 13 up until they're 18, 19. That is same thing. We were watching with my grandma. She was dying her ass off because she knew exactly what was going on. She even called it out.
Yeah,
like I remember her laughing her ass off, and she goes, "They're gonna get sick. Like they're gonna be sick as hell." And then when they did get sick, she was dying, and I was like, "Oh, it's funny. They're throwing up on each other."
Yeah, serves them right, little shits.
I had no. She was just like, I know what everyone first cigarette. Remember that? How I got the spins. Now they're going on this thing. Thought it was funny as hell.
Yeah. Let's talk about the performances, mostly from the kid actors, because we kind of touched on Dennis Leary and like we didn't mention the mom, but
she does fine.
Yeah, she plays Kate Capshaw,
Karen Allen.
Yeah, in Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
The adults I think served their roles well. But yeah, let's go talk about the kids. I thought they were very impressive. I thought the kid who played Smalls was really good. I thought Benny was really good. Mike Vitar, who I guess his older brother played the adult version of him in The Flash Forward.
Yeah,
which is
Pablo.
Fun little fact.
Yeah.
Tom Geary plays Scotty. The only other movie I've seen him in is Mystic River.
Oh.
He plays the girlfriend's. He plays the boyfriend of the girl.
The
daughter of Sean Penn.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's pretty good in that movie. Like, he's not given that much to do, but like the stuff he does do is very captivating. And I guess he's got like some legal trouble. He had like an assault charge against him in like 2013 or something.
Is he the one that threw a weight at someone's car?
Yep, 2024. So very recently active. He threw a dumbbell into his neighbor's Jeep.
Were you telling me about this?
I don't think I was. Must have been someone else.
Who the fuck was telling me about this?
Maybe Sam? Somebody must have.
Did I have an epiphany?
Maybe you had a dream and it was Babe Ruth. That might have been it. Babe Ruth come in your dream and tell you about Tom Geary's rage habits in 2024.
That is
involving dumbbells and Jeeps.
Wild to me. I'm trying to now. I can't even think of who told me. Yeah, someone told me that he. Oh, it had to be a football guy.
Yeah, he probably brought up the Sandlot, being like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna talk about it on the podcast." And they're like, "Did you know this dumbbell thing?"
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you.
So yeah, I thought they were both good. I mean, I don't think really anybody was particularly. Oh, was your dad?
Dude, he's like, when you talk about it on the pod, I told him, he goes, "Oh, did you hear Smalls threw a dumbbell at some guy?" I was like, "What?"
Were you guys playing catch while this was happening?
No, literally, I was like getting pressed and ready to go, and I was just kind of like out the door, and he goes, "Yeah, read it in the clip, and can you believe that? Threw a weight at someone's car." And I was like, "That's the second time." I was like, "Well, he'll get community service and $1,000 fine," because that's what happens when you're an actor.
I guess. I mean, I feel like he's not really in the greatest spot in terms of acting, but I could be wrong.
Judge is like, don't give a shit what you did 30 years ago.
He was in The Revenant? Who the fuck was he in The Revenant?
Oh.
I'm looking up his part now.
So he's like holding on.
Billy Brother Trapper.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Extra.
Basically. Jobber, air quotes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought like most of the kids were good. Like Porter was fun. The fat redheaded kid.
Fat. Be careful, Kyle.
Sorry.
Cancel culture.
Husky.
Yes.
Redheaded kid.
Big boned.
Yes, big boned.
I don't know if that counts.
I liked his scene with the back and forth with the other baseball team where he's just like constantly giving them shit. That stuff is so good.
Dude, that is one of the best moments of the, because all you're watching are these kids practice. Nunes is up there throwing pitches, and you got guys playing practice. Yeah. So you don't know how good they are.
And Smalls is constantly talking throughout the movie about like how they're the best he's ever seen. They're super in sync. They're super good.
Yeah, and you're like, all right, like how good are they? Then you get the frickin' Pee Wee team that rolls up, and you know that they're
all in like their uniform, their typical baseball garb,
hostility, because they know
jackets.
If these kids went out for the team, they'd replace them. Mm-hmm. So it's like what any young idiot would do is walk up and be like, dude, we're better than you because we're on a team.
If these kids actually wanted to play baseball, they would destroy in the little leagues, right?
Yeah, and they got to get in there and give them shit about it. Yeah, because like, what do you guys do? You just practice. That's all you do. There's no way you could beat us. And then they go up there and fucking beat their ass.
Hey, guess what? They won because that's literally all they do every fucking day.
Yeah. Oh my God, I loved it. It was like yeah, this thing has like, and that's right after that's right before the carousel scene, right?
Yeah, the carnival scene.
Yeah, because that's why they're celebrating, because they beat the school's
They beat the official team. Yeah. I love the way that, kind of speaking on the way that they play and how it's described. And I'm not like the biggest fan of like all the narration in the movie, which I'll talk about, but I love the way that I think it's David Mickey Evans is doing the voice himself.
I think so.
I love the way he's describing how they play the game, where it just feels like an endless dream game.
Yeah.
And it really adds to that effect of like this being sort of like a tall tale, kind of like dreamscape sort of thing that we're watching. And how like, they just live in this weird little paradise where they just sort of play baseball with each other, but like there's an improv to it. They just pass each other the ball. They bat it at each other. There's like a rhythm to it. There's like an idiosyncrasy thing going on. And I love how that's described. It's like, it paints this really good picture of what we're seeing.
Yeah. No, it's really funny really fun because right at the beginning, he kind of just lays it out there, and it's almost like this, like you could, almost like if you went to a Sandlot now, you could kind of go in there and get a little dreamscape and seeing, a little team play, with all these kids that are growing up that aren't really officially organized or on a team or having to pay anything. It's just like, hey, it's the neighborhood kids getting together. Let's go out there and have some fun. Because it's really like, at the end of the day, it's practice. All they're doing is practicing. But they did it for hours. We'll just play from noon to 5. Yeah. Until when the sun comes up, let's get out there, boys. And when the sun goes down, we'll see you tomorrow. And it's almost like these kids, it's like Never Neverland. And I think that's why the Sandlot's it's a very apt title.
Yeah, because it sort of connotates that sort of mythic understanding of it.
Yeah, and it's
this is like an oasis that they go to every single day.
You almost, and you kind of wish that every kid had that. I mean,
yeah, for sure,
right? Like I watch this thing still, and I get a little envious of like, because I mean, I had friends around in elementary school, but it's not like in the summertime you just get picked. Hey, let's play some pickup basketball when we're 10 and. We could do this all day because we have unlimited energy and we just enjoy being in each other's company.
I think that's why I related so heavily to Smalls, too, is because like he's a character who obviously sees this as like a sort of paradise and wants to be a part of it. At the same time, I'm watching this movie and I'm like, I want to be a part of it just like Smalls. Yeah. I want to have something like this as an equivalent in my life currently.
Yeah, this is the missing piece.
Yeah, and it's like that's it speaks a lot to that sort of like unattainable sort of heavenly gathering that you have with some friends where you're like, I never want this to end.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very, and the music plays into it very well, and what's going on, and a little bit of the folklore going on with it, right? It well crafted.
Yeah. I do want to touch on the narration because I did sort of tease this earlier.
You did.
Not that it really drags the movie down for me much at all, and this is going to get an appropriate rating in my opinion, but there's some instances where there's a bit of repetitiveness to some of the narration, specifically the reasoning why, like, I'm not entirely sure why he always has to describe it as like the biggest pickle any of us had ever seen. And it's like, some of the writing there feels very, I don't know, just like lazy. And he's just saying the same shit over and over again. There's like no kind of new spin on it of the same sort of thing. But like, not that he necessarily needs to, but it's like, this feels a little bit tired to me.
It's going to a 9-year-old's brain. You know, yeah. I mean, it's kind of reflecting on his age, and that's kind of how you...
Right, and that's kind of how a 9-year-old would talk.
Yeah.
The issue is that it's a 45-year-old man saying it.
Yeah, but he's going... I mean, I don't know. I always liked it because, like, it felt like it was just building up to that moment. And you knew exactly what the stakes were and exactly what was kind of running through his head. Yeah. Because he's not going to have any new thoughts on what he's seeing or what was about to occur.
Right. And it's not like I totally hate the narration or anything. It's just like those instances where
lazy writing.
Yeah. Like I can kind of see it. But
it's for 10-year-olds. So.
But when he's describing the game as like, oh, it's like an endless dream game, or he's describing Babe Ruth or like, James Earl Jones's relationship with him and that sort of thing. It's like, oh, I can get behind this narration.
Yeah.
Typically not a huge fan of it in most movies, but I feel like it's appropriate here, especially with the way it's framed as like that sort of reminiscing of good times.
Well, that's what I was about to say. I mean, anytime I'm a fan of like even Red and Shawshank. Mm-hmm. It's almost like a reflection.
Probably the best example, yes.
Well, but I'm trying to like there narration like Fassbender and the Killer.
Yes.
Remember?
Yeah.
That one, to me, that's all right. He's just kind of going through his thoughts on what's about to happen, and I don't mind that.
And that's sort of like the movie for being a little more antagonistic towards you. Of like, we're gonna give you this guy's thoughts, but you can't trust him.
Exactly. And it's also, I mean, there's not a lot of characters in there that he's interacting with, so you got to keep something to kind of keep going.
Yeah.
But no, like when it comes down to like reflecting on old times or looking back fondly on something, I do appreciate that because there's something that you can kind of weave in with the tones of your voice that like really thinking fondly of something. There's different ways that you're talking, whether it's me yelling at Preston for throwing on, the baseball around the house, or it's me talking about being 10 years old playing pickleball at elementary school. You can kind of tell the tones, and that's why this fits in very well with him looking back, and especially with it being his first summer. I guess I never really thought about it as lazy writing because it just kept the stakes high for me, and I didn't really need him to think about anything else other than that's what they were about to get into.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't think it's all lazy writing. I think that there's just some instances where it feels a little hackney, but that's just me, and I'm a fan of it overall. Yeah, I would rather have it than not have it.
I mean, if you're trying, this thing is very hard, I think, to nitpick at things you could change.
And even like watching it now, there's like always that little bit of worry where, if I revisit a childhood favorite movie, am I going to find something about it that like I absolutely cannot get behind, or is just going to lose me? And that really didn't happen with this. I enjoyed it just as much. I laughed at the same moments. Having Megan there, I think, only helped in my viewing experience of being able to share this with somebody. And there really wasn't anything I had to worry about when rewatching this film. All good.
Yeah.
If you hear that, I think the neighbor is working on something, so I might shut the windows real quick.
You think it's going to pick up?
It's going to pick up.
Okay.
I can tell you right now it's going to pick up.
You know it better than I do.
Oh, boy.
I'm just thinking about how hot this thing's going to get.
All right. Problem solved.
No, it was really fun having... So, Preston and his cousin Nate, I got to show them for the first time, and it was very enjoyable because like they were we were out in the living room and they were laying on the floor and the movie kind of starts off and it starts off with that dream, the music, and you can kind of see them. They're like, all right, what are we getting into? And then Smalls hops on there and they're kind of like, oh, it's a group of kids, like, oh, how cool. And then as the movie goes on, the moments where the cinema picks up, Preston was actually getting up and sitting down in like an Indian pose watching this thing, like very in tune with what's going on. And and then it gets a little bit more laid back when he got more comfortable, and then the beast would pop up and he's like, I can't watch, I gotta watch, and it was just very fun seeing a kid go through the experience of seeing this, because I mean really they're the ones that maybe relate to it the most, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But even being able to look back and see those experiences with him and how he's kind of feeling, and think about myself watching it for the first time, being like, oh, this is the moment I remember being freaked out about. Let's see. That's
why I love showing people movies for the first time. That vicarious experience.
Yeah.
It's always enjoyable. I love the end of it too, where, and we can talk about a little bit about the ending, about how
speculating on Benny's career. Is that what I heard?
But yeah, partially that. But like Benny goes over the wall, gets the ball, and by the way, he straps on some snazzy pair of PF Flyers. I looked them up to see if they were still selling them. They are, and I can tell you that they are because now I get constant ads for them on Facebook.
And you're not buying a pair of PF Flyers?
I mean, maybe if I do, it'll appease the algorithm and stop showing me them. But boy, oh boy, they're everywhere. I can't escape them.
My buddy bought PF Flyers. I think it was for his wedding.
That's epic.
Yeah, it was awesome. We were, one of the things that we related on. Yeah, he bought a pair of PF Flyers. I'm fairly certain it was to walk down the aisle in.
Epic shit.
Yeah, funny. I mean, hey, you wonder how movies make an impact on your life. Here you are. I guarantee you, if he doesn't watch the Sandlot, he ain't buying PF Flyers for any reason.
Yeah, right.
Oh,
I just like them. They're comfortable.
Exactly. I asked him. He's like, they're walking on cardboard.
Yeah. But he goes over the fence, gets the ball, has the epic wipeout chase with the dog. Kids are running around, and they meet up back at the lot. He jumps back over the fence.
Yep.
And the dog follows him, or he crashes through the fence, and then the fence collapses on him. They help save the dog, and then they're like, oh, he's just a dog, whatever. And then he leads them and shows them all the balls that he has in his little dog house. And then James Earl Jones comes out, and he's blind as shit, and he's like,
yeah,
hey, what's going on? And they're like, oh, your dog got out. And he's like, Hercules. He's doing his James Earl Jones thing. And then you come to find out James Earl Jones used to play with Babe Ruth.
Yeah.
And, at this point, the Babe Ruth ball is fucked beyond salvation.
Yes.
Salvaging, I should say, and salvation. It's not getting into heaven anymore, I can tell you that. Not the way that ball's looking. So then James Earl Jones is like, hey, I got one better for you. How about a ball signed by the whole team?
And 1927 Yankees, Murderers Row. They're deemed the best offense that's ever taken a baseball field.
They're like, whoa, Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, all this shit.
Yeah.
Cool, man. And, you get the ending. And then it leads into one of my favorite parts of the movie that could be cheesy by other people's standards, but not mine, where Smalls narrates and reads off what happens with the other kids after they grow up. And one of my favorites was the tall kid with the glasses. Bertram. Bertram got lost in the 60s, and none of us ever saw him again. It's you can maybe infer that he became a hippie and was kind of a druggie.
Got really heavy into the 60s, and none of us ever talked to him again.
Yeah, right? And then you remember, this is the kid that brought the chewing tobacco with him.
Yeah.
So it all...
That's a nice touch. Yeah, I never even... God...
It all ties in.
Yeah, hey, we're trying new things, man.
Michael Squints Palladores married Wendy Peppercorn and had 9 kids together. It's like, oh, really?
Catholic?
I wonder what they were doing with their spare time. Fucking.
Stork came and visited quite a few times.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's always a fun one when they go down and then they kind of and then they cast them into Field of Dreams style. They just throw them right into the cornfield,
Yeah.
Dissolve them, and that's his memories of them. That's where it ended. It cracked me up how successful they all became.
For the most part,
you know,
like Timmy and Tommy starting their own business.
The mini malls.
Yeah. Became millionaires or whatever the fuck he says.
Yeah, the Nunes had he made it to AAA, and then he just owns his own business and runs his kids' baseball team. Benny, fucking MLB player.
Yeah.
Porter, the great Hambino, made it into professional wrestling. Yeah. I don't remember what happened to Yeah.
I don't either.
He invented bungee jumping. Right?
Right, based on his experience with...
So I'm like, you got two people that invented stuff, two people that became professional, one that got close to becoming a professional, and then the two guys, one Squints married his, dream girl, and Bertram ended up just doing a shit ton of drugs.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Good Hercules lived to be 199 in dog years.
Yeah. Which is like 27, I want to say.
Yeah, what is it? So, let's do the math on that. So, 199.
About 28 years.
So, is it by 7 that you have to multiply?
Yeah,
so, divide that by, that's 28 years old.
Yep.
Which is insane for any dog,
yeah.
let alone that breed of dog. Because, larger dog breeds don't live as long as smaller ones.
Plays into the myth, right? Plays into the folklore.
I guess so, yeah.
Because who's to say that thing did live till it was 199?
Right, in human years?
That's maybe why he said it. He's like, in dog years, He's
got to keep the secret, otherwise, the government's after him,
Yeah.
Oh, boy. And then you get the end scene where it turns out Scotty Smalls is a sports announcer. And
I was trying to figure it out because Vince Scully did the Dodger game. So in this world, he either replaced Vince Scully or Vince Scully did the media, and he must have been a radio announcer.
I think so. Because even when I was a kid, I always kind of found it weird that despite the fact that he was a sports announcer commenting on the game between two different teams, he was losing his shit when his friend Benny was, getting the...
It's the best part.
Getting the home play. It's like, yeah, I love it, and I love what it stands for. But logistically, as, a job that he's doing, I don't know how much sense it makes for him to, cheer on someone in the game when he's supposed to be commentating on what's happening.
He didn't really cheer him on. It's... the way he does it, it's got a little bit more pizzazz than you would.
Sure.
I listen to a lot of baseball on the radio.
Yeah.
So when stuff like that happens, those guys lose their shit.
So it's not entirely unrealistic.
No, not at all. And it's not like he's going, my friend the Jet. He's he goes, the Jet's got a heavy lead over there at
That's
third.
my friend Benny. I put $200,000 on him winning this game.
Yeah. Can you believe the odds on him stealing home plus 3,000? No, it's when you listen to it, it's very much like if you took it and fast forward it all the way to the end and listen to that thing, you'd be like, oh, that's like a cinematic way a radio broadcaster would do this. Mm. It's not, I think he's just got a little bit more passion in it because it's his friend, which I like it more because it makes it even more wholesome.
Yeah, it's a nice little cap off to what we've been seeing in the movie.
Which is funny, though, because then, if you think about it, though, you're 162 games. They're with the team every time. He's been with Benny for 15. Pretty much probably growing up, unless they went to different colleges. They got back together, and now he's Benny's obviously in his late 30s. They're using him only as a pinch runner at this point. I can't imagine that he was because you have to do it from the time frame of when it comes out to where they're at now, right?
Yeah.
It's 30 years later from 1962.
Yeah, they aged significantly.
Yeah, so
Scotty looks significantly older.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. You're looking at a guy in the twilight years, so it's really fun for him to have that moment. But then you think about it, you're like, man, he's with him all the time. Do you think he's really rooting for his friend that much on every broadcast?
I like how it seems like Benny ages maybe 20 years, and then Scotty ages 40 years. It seems like Scotty's a little bit older,
a little bit
now.
more weathered.
Well, yeah,
right?
A little bit more haggard than Benny, and maybe that's a commentary on athleticism and staying fit.
I was about to say, well, I don't know in that time period, roids were going around, and you had a lot of dudes that looked a lot older than what they were.
Yeah.
Well, dude, and we don't need to get into that conversation.
No. One conversation I want to get into, and this is kind of heading towards the wrap-up of this movie discussion, is have you ever seen any of the sequels?
No. No, Kyle, I haven't. I would not do that to myself, and as far as I'm concerned, they don't really exist.
Guess what 13 or 14-year-old Kyle did?
Made a mistake?
One day. He made a grave mistake. He went down to the video store that was near his grandpa's house, and he decided to rent The Sandlot 2, which came out.
Sandlot Goes to Japan.
It did fucking 2005. The
2005?
Yeah. Directed by David Mickey Evans.
Yeah, he's like, I'm broke as fuck.
So he resurrected a corpse.
We can strike gold twice.
He dug up his favorite pet from the pet cemetery, and he
God.
decided that, oh, yes, let's do this again,
Dude,
not realizing how cursed it would be.
You know, some gambling, like some bookie was holding a gun to his head, and he's like, I'll do it. I'll fucking do it.
So, also known as The Sandlot 2, The Sandlot Continues, and The Sandlot Kids 2 in some territories. Oh, boy.
Like, not even... So, by the way, the original title of this thing, The Boys of Summer.
Yeah.
That's what it was going to be called.
What did we say it was earlier?
Like the Boys of the Past or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's
some generic shit.
But it's The Boys of Summer was the original. So like, why didn't you The Sandlot 2, The Boys of Summer? That would have been a lot cooler than The Sandlot Continues.
Yeah, Sandlot Continues.
We
the Sandlot progresses.
Yeah, back to the dream.
The Sandlot shambles on and on. No, so I watched this movie, and big surprise, it fucking sucks.
Really?
And I don't remember much from it at all. I remember that it's a lot more
ya.
contemporary in its portrayal, a little bit more modern in the setting. It's got like a similar kid to Porter, where like he's a husky, redheaded, freckled boy, and he's supposed to be like the snarky, funny one.
Yeah.
And the main character, Small's equivalent of Sandlot 2, is like, oh, this time it's a girl, and she has to overcome being a girl playing with boys, and it's like the most obvious shit you've ever seen.
You want to see a portrayal of that? Go watch Bad News Bears.
I thought you were gonna say She's the Man, where Amanda Bynes dresses
that's one
as
of
a guy.
Jasmine's like favorite films.
Channing Tatum's in it somehow.
Yeah, it's a weird. That one's odd.
Maybe recommendation?
No, I don't know how much there's. You know what? Well, if we do that, we're gonna do Godzilla 1998 with it. So
I would love to see the through line of that pairing.
Shitty movies that we have to talk about.
One more thing to note about Sandlot 2: James Earl Jones is in it.
Dude, he's still kicking it, isn't he?
Yeah, he's like 90 fucking years. He's 93 years old.
Which is funny because, like, you throw on Field of Dreams, you would probably say he's the same age then as he is now. And that was 40 some odd years ago.
Yeah, he's one of those actors who's just always been old. He's kind of like Christopher Lloyd that way.
Yes.
Where like,
because I can't believe he's still kicking it either.
This guy was just born an old man.
Yeah. Really just like, you get that haggard, weathered look going, and he's like, I just got to keep this going for another 40 years.
Yeah, when he's 130 years old. There's a direct-to-video sequel, The Sandlot Heading Home, starring Luke Perry. And there's a couple of like returning cast members. One of them is Chauncey Leopardi, who plays Squints. So he's in that movie for some reason.
For some, he's looking for money. Fucking contracted men.
Hey, man, I'm out of those residuals, man.
Yeah.
There's a prequel film that was announced in July 2018. That's probably DOA. And then in 2019, a TV series with the original cast was in the works for Disney Plus as a result of Disney's acquisition of 20th Century Fox. In November 2023, the series was canceled due to the lengthy SAG-AFTRA strike.
Oh, those guys are all like, please, Christ, end this thing.
SAG-AFTRA strike did us a solid, I will say.
I don't know. I'm going to say this right now. It's like the Karate Kid, the Cobra Kai.
Maybe it could have been like that, maybe.
See, I'm not going to rule it out quite. I haven't seen Cobra Kai. I've only heard it's fun.
I mean, it's got multiple seasons, so it must be doing something right.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I wonder if this thing, but it's on Netflix, so they can probably take some liberties.
It has an audience for sure.
Yeah, whereas this thing on Disney Plus, well, they would have got my ass. I would have checked out episode 1 for sure.
Mac would have been its first viewer. Maybe its only viewer. I don't know.
I wonder how
we'll
they
never
know. Did it. what do you think they're doing? Like, they get back together in the
It probably
40s?
would have just been like, oh, they get back together in the 40s? It probably would have just been like, oh, their kids are all like the same age now, and they like...
Yeah, but imagine all the tension, and now that it's not the 60s, it's the fucking 90s or the 2000s, so like...
Yeah, not right off the cusp of like 9/11. That's a storyline.
Direction of like...
The Sandlot tackles 9/11.
No. This isn't or what is it? What's those fucking dogs?
Ace Detective Jr.
No, the Pet
Airbud?
Force or
G-Force? Are you thinking of the gerbils?
no? I'm thinking of the
fuck are you talking
damn
about?
dogs that like you got a police dog and the
Paw Patrol.
yeah. We're not going Paw Patrol. We're going. The dads are looking back fondly, and the kids hate each other.
Yeah.
So that it's like trying to figure out, but then you have all these political differences going on, and Benny's kid's like the best kid, but he's got an ego, and Benny's like, you're not going to make it if you got an ego, and then you got like all these like differing viewpoints on the world now, whereas before they were a collective group, and now they're all like, faction because,
George Bush fucked them up.
Yeah. Well, I don't know why we got to keep going back to like
9/11.
Yeah, 9/11 impacting things, but maybe.
I'm just putting my own spin on it, my own fun Disney spin.
Yeah. What are you trying to? What's that? Extremely loud, incredibly close. Like, why are you bringing that into this?
I don't want to bring that into this.
I
fucking hate that movie.
Well, that's what you've been doing.
I regret my decisions. I retract my statements about the Sandlot causing 9/11. I think that's a good spot to wrap this up.
Yeah, it's a great spot. The Sandlot caused 9/11. We have this beautiful conversation and end it with that.
I will say that Disney Plus series, that's what they should have called the Sandlot Kids. The
Boys of Summer. I like the Boys of Summer.
Be the Boys of Summer. The Sandlot : Boys of Summer.
Yeah.
I think that could maybe work. I don't know. As a title, as a series, I'm not so sure.
We'll find out. There'll probably be in 2030. I'm sure we'll have another one because that's what we do now in Hollywood.
Another one.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get into ratings for the Sandlot. What would you rate this
film?
film?
Hold on one second. I gotta see now. I've got to look it up because I want to see if I'm staying sure. I'm pretty sure I know what it is, but I never fail to surprise myself.
And I never surprised to fail myself.
That's a tongue-in-cheek.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, 10 out of 10.
Hell yeah, brother.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yes.
Glad to hear it.
7 out of 10?
No, this is a very high 9 out of 10 from your boy.
Yeah, I mean, come on, dude. The narrations got you that much?
I mean, it didn't really get me that much. And like I said before, it doesn't really affect my rating too much. But... I don't know, man.
You know what you
Kyle
are?
9 out of 10 is still a feat to behold.
It's better than a 9 out of 11, I guess.
I guess so.
And that's what we call a callback, ladies and gentlemen.
I feel like you were teeing up something to say to me.
Oh, yeah.
You know what you are?
Knock that. I just busted the brains out of that ball.
That's true, yeah. It's an apple core now.
Yeah.
Wasn't there something that you were going to read from Sam, like a text exchange that you had with him?
Should we do that?
Let's do that now.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I can find it. Because now, and Sam's going on about the Eagles now. I mean, like, this is the stuff. I do love that we get to, like, he texts me, like, these long, like, look at how long this thing is. Like, it gives me something, like,
That's
reading
a thesis statement right
Dude,
there.
it's all that's on his mind constantly. So what were we talking about? We were going to talk about...
I think it had to do with...
Twisters.
Yeah, because he had beef with how we talked about Twisters, right? Or
something. Man. Yeah, you ready?
Yes. So this is from the mouth of Sam Parker, Mac's brother, who has been a guest on and will be a future guest. I'm very confident.
Also,
unless he's mad at us that much.
No. He loves us. I mean, I love being able to talk about this stuff with him. I wish I had I feel like he's just got time to get it out. And he always catches, like, I'm at work doing football stuff, so I can't think. I got like 4 thoughts running in my head.
We're like, Sam, I'll address this later.
Yeah, exactly. I wish I could, but it never comes back up into my brain. But he was stewing on it, so he goes, okay, I just heard your less than stellar excitement over Twisters. I got notes. Like, I fucked up. You know, like, you didn't do it what I was thinking that you were going to do.
Okay, so to be fair, and let me ask you this. Is he lumping us both in this disappointment level, or is it just you?
It's just me, because I think we talked about this before. I saw Twisters 7 or 8 times in theaters. Like, my dad took us to, we saw it, I think, at the drive-in once, Cinema Carousel 3 times, and the Plaza 3 or 4 times. Like, my dad took us out of school one day to take us to the film. Like, he needed to have buddies with him to watch this thing. And if you, anyways, we love it, and it's more than, I mean, I think I get 9 or 10 out of 10 for me. But I'm not a big sequel guy, you know, so tell me if you can see where he's leaning after I read this to you.
Okay.
First thing he says, 1, you're a gimp. Thanks. 2, $200 million budget. He's reasoning why it could be good or bad. 3, up-and-coming cast, got a score of 14 on the William H. Macy casting meter. So that's kind of like our way of saying, all right, like, you have a jobber. Did he bring it up to the next level, or what level? Like, Dusty and Twister, jobber, brought it up to contender's role, right? 4, with the cast having star power but being young and somewhat unknown, not a lot on the budget, went towards the talent, majority on action effects and soundtrack. 5, director has only directed Minari. Didn't see, but it won awards and was a critical darling.
I have it on my watch list.
Yeah, it's A24.
Steven Yeun, the A24. Yep.
Right. Yeah.
It's about him getting a farmhouse, I think.
Yeah, they're
like a Korean immigrant family or something.
Yeah, because I have it on. I'm pretty sure I have it on mine too. Glen Powell. We watched him go from boy stable to blockbuster star.
To be fair, yes, he is right about that.
Yep, it's called Twisters, which means there will be a sexy tie into the original and have a few Easter eggs and or winks to the fan. 8, the plot and story appear to hit every genre: action, comedy, romance, fun, suspense, and tornadoes.
Eroticism.
Yes. 9, this is what I'm talking about for remakes. Good, solid films with flaws but beloved by fans. Top Gun, Twister, Roadhouse, Halloween, Dune, Blade Runner, etc. Some of the flaws could be story, acting, budget, or studio involvement, but the fans want more to make up for it, and the rest of the world needs to get exposed to it. 10, and lastly, could you imagine her saying, my dad followed Twisters, his name was Dusty?
Oh, his name was Dusty, not Bill Paxton.
Yeah.
What was his character's name in Twister? It was like Dale or some shit.
Not Dale. How dare you? Come on. Might have been Bill.
I think it was Bill. I think we talked about the fact that his name is the same in the movie and in real life. I mean, yeah, fair points. I cannot argue with his perspective, really. I would say a pretty fair projection of it potentially being like a Top Gun Maverick.
Don't feed into it.
I mean, I'm feeding into it a little bit because I think it's fun.
It's true,
but I don't know. I could it's hard to say. It's hard to say based on like one trailer that we have and like a 30-second commercial that we see on TV every now and again. But
I saw a 2.5-minute trailer on some sporting event I was watching or some preview to a movie. Like, I got a full like heavy dose of it, and it actually that's when I was like, hey.
But the trailer's like, it's deliberately not showing you any of like really the story beats or like the dialogue interactions too much. Like it 90% of it is just like the tornadoes and like the action and the set pieces and everything going on in a spectacle.
Yep.
Whereas, like, okay, they know that that's going to be the selling point for most people, so that's what they're advertising.
Right.
Whereas, like, who the fuck knows how the writing or the characters or, like, how the story's going to be, if it's going to be up to snuff or if it's going to be one of those things where, like, a Top Gun Maverick, like, yeah, the story's simple, but, like, that's all we need to get this thing moving forward.
So, I am in agreement with you on that, and my thought process is as long as they don't expand on the first one, whereas like Top Gun Maverick, but the only thing holding it together is the Top Gun Academy, right? Outside of that, I mean, it's kind of the same sort of plot, just different, a little bit of a different makeup and what's going on, and they age the character, but they play into that age, right? So as long as this thing has like it's Twisters, we tie it in with a family member or something, and we go from there. I'll be very interested to see. I'm almost hoping that Glen Powell is like a buffoon in this thing.
Yeah, I want this movie to have like its own legs that it stands on.
Yes.
Not relying too heavily on the movie before. Obviously, it being like a sequel, air quotes, it'll have some tie-in of some sort.
Yeah.
But as long as this movie justifies its own existence, then, you know, I think we'll be in good hands.
I agree. I told Sam what I kept repeating was cautiously optimistic.
Yeah.
I've seen these things get butchered, but there's also been good sequels that have come out that hold the weight of their own. Like we said, I mean, and you know, Furiosa is kind of almost in that realm. It does have it is able to stand on its own with the tie-in of just Mad Max, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So, you know, I mean, there's if we can, a lot of those things I feel like get built off of, we made a lot of money on the first one, or the first one was so good we could just raise the stakes and double the effects.
Yeah.
Whereas if this
let's do the same thing but bigger.
Yeah, that's my fear with this thing. Which if it's not, I'm kind of hoping that Glen Powell, like they got him on all this stuff where he's smiling. He's like, you take your fears and you ride them. And then we get out there and just find out that he's a complete moron. You know, probably putting people's lives at jeopardy, and he has no idea what he's doing. Yeah. I will love that.
I guess we'll have to see.
Yes.
When does it come out?
July 19th, 20th, somewhere around Sam's birthday. So.
Oh, wow. Convenient.
Yeah, I think we're going to be seeing it in theaters.
I think I know what you guys are doing for his birthday.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm glad that we got to read off of some of Sam's thoughts off the cuff.
Yes.
In the form of text. So thank you, Sam, for that.
Appreciate it, brother.
I don't know if you're going to have a night call, but if you send one, you send one. If not,
that was it. I mean, I got shit like that I get, well, not constantly. It's probably every 2 weeks he's got to get it off his chest.
Man's got to do what man's got to do.
Yeah.
I'm not going to stop him.
Night Call with Sam Parker.
What's going on? It's a night call with your boy, Sam Parker. You might have noticed my absence from last week's night call or last episodes. If you remember from the previous one, I said if my brother isn't listening to these, I'm not doing them. And then Kyle brought up that it wasn't on the week before. Really covered my brother's ass. Well done, Kyle. Showing that you're the real one of the two. And also, too, you guys have a banger episode on your hands. Holy cow. The Sandlot and Everybody Wants Some. Right off the bat, both of these are 10 out of 10 movies for me. And I would even go as far to say that they are two of the best, pretty, like, no story movies. Like The Sandlot, the first half, there's nothing going on except a coming of age and a kid acclimating to a new town. And you're just with those characters for the first half of the movie, invested in caring about them. And pretty much the plot is a baseball goes over the fence and they got to go get it. It's kind of lame when you break it down that standpoint. But they spend the first half of the movie putting over, you know, the danger of going over the fence, how important it is, the baseball that he buffoon-like grabbed off of his stepdad's desk. Just a perfect film. But, you know, for that age group, I mean, any kid that's seen The Sandlot, it resonates with them. And I do think that there is nothing better than teaching the youth, you know, the love of the game, you know, love of sport, love of fellowship with friends. It's just a really solid film. And then, like, a continuation of that is Everybody Wants Some. You know, pretty much what would happen with this kind of set of kids growing up in college. And that one, you know, is kind of the opposite, because the first half of Everybody Wants Some is like, hey, we got a big practice, player-led practice, you know, on Sunday, and also no girls allowed upstairs in the baseball house. And it's like, you think like that's going to be adversity, or like somebody's going to get kicked off the team for that, and it's like, nah, nope, it's just dudes being dudes, guys palling around, hanging out. both movies relatively low stakes, but that just, I mean, it is refreshing to watch a film that has low stakes, that you're not, that death isn't imminent and tragedy isn't going to happen, and you just get to have fun with these characters and see them in their element. One of my favorite things about like big budget action movies or anything like that where it's like a heist and a crew is they usually show the crew in the first, the cold open or the first 20 minutes of the film, business as usual, getting the job done, high efficiency. And I always love those scenes of just them, kicking ass. And then it's like, yeah, we got one more job. And that's where things go awry. This movie, everybody wants them is like that first where it's just the dudes being dudes, There's a little bit of team strife with like new players coming in, but for the most part, it's just good laughs and great music and awesome, rich characters. And, for me, very relatable. I think very relatable, both movies, for being an athlete, and having a real appreciation for sport. Very interested to hear what Kyle has to say. Especially about Everybody Wants Some. I heard that he really likes The Sandlot. I think you guys will be just, gushing over that. I almost made this call from the marathon I ran, but unfortunately I couldn't speak when I thought about doing it. I thought it would be an epic way, but whatever. It's on. Both these movies are 10 out of 10. Two all-time classics, in my opinion. I hope you enjoy. Kyle, it's getting hot out. The sun's getting out. You know what you got to do. Lather up. SPF 99. Mackie, same with you. You got a little bit more surface area. Better lather it up. Catch you guys in a little bit. I'll talk to you later. Bye.
All right. Well, we got one more bit of housekeeping in order.
I'm curious as where we go with it.
I'm going to make a recommendation. So I've got a couple of potential new releases that we can check out. The Bike Riders. Tom Hardy, Austin Butler.
Yeah.
I think I'm good with seeing that.
Okay.
Confident in that will be an interesting one to talk about.
I think so too.
Kind of a sort of star-led thing. You don't see too many motorcycle movies, really.
And it's based on true events, right?
I think so. If not at true events.
Some sort of, what do you call that? Creative liberties taken with some
representative of like an actual time period.
I mean, it kind of looks like a mob or gang movie.
It kind of looks like Goodfellas, but on motorcycles.
Yeah. The first time I saw it, I was like, I don't know. And then I've seen a couple trailers.
Yeah. It seems like Austin Butler's sort of like the Ray Liotta, Tom Hardy sort of the Robert De Niro type.
Yes.
Maybe mixed in with like some Joe Pesci in there.
Yep.
My brain is fucked because I always want to call him Joe Pizza because I made a stupid joke at work and I laughed my ass off for like an hour. And now I just call him Joe Pizza.
Did it land with anyone? Or
no, just me. Literally just me. It was like that type of energy where it's like 2 a.m. and I'm just tired as shit and anything will make me laugh.
Yeah.
And I just kept saying Joe Pizza over and over again. And it worked on me.
Yeah.
Didn't work on anyone else.
Yeah.
But it sure as fuck worked on
Kyle.
me. Yeah. All right. So the Bike Riders will be the new one. And then let me look up some info about this movie. This is one that I've had on the docket for a bit of time. I'm mostly picking this because I think it'll be a unique type of film that we haven't really talked about before.
Minari.
That'd be nice. Maybe one day. But this is sort of a unconventional lead actor, unconventional type of genre movie. Came out 2002, directed by Curtis Hanson, who directed L.A. Confidential, Wonder Boys, The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, Inner Shoes, a few other things.
Okay.
So he's got some stuff under his belt. Yeah. And this is I guess maybe musical, I'm not sure is the right word.
Maybe musical?
Maybe musical. I'm not entirely sure. But it follows the rise of a young rap artist in Detroit.
8 Mile?
I want to talk about 8 Mile. I'm recommending Curtis Hansen's 8 Mile starring Eminem, Marshall Mathers himself.
Yeah.
We mentioned him last episode as a potential for Mad Max when George Miller was making Fury Road.
Yeah.
And it got me thinking about... and I already, like I said, had this movie on the docket for a future recommendation.
So you haven't seen 8 Mile?
I have not seen 8 Mile.
Okay.
Have you?
Yeah, a couple times. I've seen it like spliced. So
you've seen like scenes of it.
No, I mean I've seen the whole thing combined.
Gotcha.
Like it's like one of those things where it's like I know I left off at this part, I left off at that
stitched
part.
together kind of like a human centipede.
Yeah. So I don't have a fluid stream of it, so this will be one of the first times for a fluid stream of 8 Mile.
Yeah, I think it'll be an interesting discussion, and I'm curious what I'll think of it because I have no, like, other than like a few scenes and like parodies that I've watched, and obviously I know who Eminem is. I don't really know what to expect fully from this movie.
It's kind of a biopic.
Yeah, like
it's about call it a musical.
Yeah, it's kind of like that Prince movie we were talking about, Purple Rain, where it's like about Prince, but it's a different character, but it's basically Prince.
Right.
This feels like the same thing where it's like it's Eminem, but he's not Eminem. He's Jimmy B. Rabbit Smith. So
could have been a street name. Anyway, yeah, they all got aliases.
Yeah, but what do you think about 8 Mile as the recommendation?
It's rolling.
It's rolling.
Yeah.
It's rolling like an 8 ball.
Whoa, okay, 8.
Rolling down the road for 8 miles.
Yep.
And if you don't want to be spoiled for 8 Mile and the bike riders, be sure to check those films out before episode 75.
Nice.
Thank you guys so much for listening to episode 74 of the Neon Crew podcast. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already, and be sure to give us some 5-star ratings on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Be sure to check out our social medias, Facebook and YouTube community, our Etsy page. We got some shirts for you. Shout out to Gideon for doing our music, and shout out to Lauren for doing our logo design. You can find their various social medias below in the description. Mac, is there anything else that we say before we sign off?
WWTHD.
Bye, everyone.